What's good? What's good? What's good? Tuesday night AMA. We are back, and I can't tell you how much my body, my soul, my mind needed this. This is one of my favorite weeks, nights of the week. Period. Period. How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I needed Tuesday AMA too. Get my time in with everybody and kick it and talk, man. Chill, Long day at work. New Year's here. Ready to do AMA,
Yeah, on a little bit of a sad note, definitely not how we wanted to end championship week, right? A little bit disappointing. I guess the big thing is that Hamlin, he's doing all right. Adam, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Watching that last night, I thought I'm gonna have to explain to my kids that we just watched a guy die in front of him. It was scary shit, man.
Yeah, it was the most. I would say that's the most. That was the craziest experience I've had watching football for sure. Horrible, man. Obviously, thoughts and prayers are with him, and we're hoping he's going to be able to make a full recovery. I know there's good news, and we're still looking for more. But yeah, man,
Yeah.
Our thoughts and prayers are with him right now.
It was even more scary to watch or harder to comprehend than I think even the Ryan Shazier. Jeez, man, I can't even talk.
Shazier,
man, that's how bad this day.
Ohio State. It's an Iowa guy. You don't like to say the name. I get it.
You got me there, but it was just it's so hard to watch somebody who gets up and stumbles and just falls like that, right? We're used to it in boxing, you know what I mean? You see a guy get knocked out in any type of combat sport, you're like, oh yeah, look at that guy, he got laid out. In football, it's just so weird too, because it didn't seem that bad of a hit. It didn't seem anything out of the ordinary.
Right.
Even when they showed the replay of it, there wasn't anything to do with his head. We generally associate guys going down like that with head concussion, with a head contusion, a head hit, right? We saw the one with Tua earlier in the year, right? He gets hit, smacks his head off the turf, gets up, stumbles. We kind of pointed out oh, yeah, that guy's definitely got his bell rung. He's not coming back into the game. But to see that right to the chest, stands up, takes a couple steps, and then falls down. It was a very shocking one. And then all the reports just after it just became worse and worse and worse, right? They're administering CPR on the field. You're going, holy, what? You kidding me? Adam, I don't know you. I'm not a medical expert, but anytime you hear somebody had to get CPR, your brain's that. Doesn't that mean they legit stopped breathing?
Yeah.
That's a wild thing to comprehend on a football game, that you could have the possibility of somebody literally losing their life. So very scary. Like you said, man, you touched on it best. Our thoughts were with him and his family. We hope for a speedy recovery. It's a bad situation all around. First and foremost, that was my thoughts about it. Secondly, though, I mean, it, Adam. We're in a billion fantasy leagues. That's why we do it. That's why we do a show. That's where one of our passions is. And then your secondary thoughts are man, how's this going to affect fantasy championship week? What are we going to do? Are they going to replay the game? Are they ever going to play the game? How's this affect everybody who is going into Monday night going whether or not they're going to win or going to lose? We got actual real money on the line. All that stuff is secondary, but it's still very, very real for a lot of us. So, Adam, man, what are some of your thoughts quickly just on how do you see week 17 playing out? You've kind of had all day to kind of process it in your free time and think about it. What do you think we should be doing for week 17, man?
So, I mean, I just want to reiterate what you've already said, and that's, we do this all the time now, right? We want to eventually be able to do this full time. We do it as often as we can. We love it. It's a passion. We're trying to make it more than just a passion too. And so we put a bunch of time and effort into for fantasy football, but it's still secondary. There's talking about a human's life is out there in the limb, and that always comes first. So first and foremost, whatever happens for a lot of my fantasy matchups, Mike, I would much rather have an outcome better for him than me win any fantasy titles. But when we get to what happens, it seems like they're not going to play this game. It seems like they've already said they're not playing it this week. So the other question then is, let's say they do play it and it's later in the year before the playoffs. What implications does either of these teams have to play? Is something locked up? Do they play their stars the whole time and the people that we really care about in fantasy? It's really hard to speculate. I guess for me, what should we be doing? Like, I think, at least for me, Mike, if there's a clear decided winner, just, that person should still win the fantasy matchup. If it's not clearly decided, like if it's reasonably close, someone could have had a real chance with Bills or Bengals players. I don't know. I think if they agree to split. If you want to wait and see what happens with the game when it's scheduled, do it that way. But honestly, I think for me, it's split if it's close, or wait and see what's going to happen with the game and if it makes sense to try to count it towards week 17.
I think where I'm at, like just thinking about it all day while I was at work, is obviously I want to wait and see what the NFL is going to do if they're going to replay it. Sleeper was ahead of the curve, going out and saying that, we're going to put the option in to recalculate week 17 if they play it after week 18 at some point before the playoffs. Commissioners can just go in and recalculate the points for week 17 with that game
right
in there in the totals, which is the easiest thing as a commissioner to do, right? So I think first and foremost in my leagues, that's an option that'll be on the table, and that's kind of just the fallback, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wait and see if they play the game. If they do, it doesn't matter to me if they play their starters or if they're resting starters. We'll treat it like any other game, right? And just like we had COVID for the last couple of years, sometimes you go into Monday night and it's like, shit, this dude's got COVID. He ain't playing. It's too late. Like, you just don't know.
Sure.
You don't know. I mean, that's the way it is when we play this game. I think secondly, though, you kind of touched on it, though. If the people in the championship game come to an agreement and like, hey, we're just going to split it, done. I mean, we're good. We'll just move on from there. Like, no recalculating if they do play the game, whatever. But I think if I just set that week 17 possible recalculation in the future, if the NFL actually plays the game, great. That'll just kind of be the baseline. I think the fallback scenario for me in a lot of these leagues, Adam, I don't know how many of these I commish, is if the managers, the two people in the title game, can't come to an agreement on a split, or we don't get the recalculation option, Adam,
Right.
I think the score is just going to stand the way it is, right? Like, I can't future cast and say, like, well, this guy had Stephon Diggs and he only needed 5 points to take the lead. It is what it is, man. It's fantasy football. We've all been there. We've had a guy who pulls a hammy in pregame warmups and doesn't play. Right? You're like, all I needed was like 2 catches from this guy. We've all been there and it hasn't happened. Ideally, you would just love everybody to be amicable enough, but I can't force somebody in a championship game to be like, yeah, I'm taking the L. You know what I mean? I can't make you concede. I can't make you concede it. So
I'll say for me, in some of the leagues I commission, now I don't commission as many as you. But I do have 3 leagues where it's not decided and they're trying to figure out what's going on. Personally, for me now, if it comes to a vote and someone wants to decide a winner that already had points scored, that can be the case. I won't vote that way. To me, it's an incomplete slate, and like, if you're someone that had a bunch of stacks in a game like this where there's someone that dies or almost dies, right, and they stop the game, like I have a hard time making that person lose the game because of that scenario, which is I agree, it's random stuff happens in games. People get hurt and all that, but we have a game that actually stops with a bunch of healthy people there, and like, I don't really want to punish someone because they had a player in that game from winning the title. So for me, I'll probably have them be tied or put it up to a vote. And if everyone votes for the person that has the most points for, that'd be fine. That's just kind of my thoughts on that one, because, it's I have a hard time saying you had, like, I know in one of my leagues, Mike, someone had Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, James Cook, Josh Allen, Dawson Knox. Like, and they're slated to be projected by like 6 points. Like, I will not tell them that they lost that game. Like, it's just I can't do that to that person. So that's just my thoughts, though. It doesn't mean I'm right or wrong. And I think we're all kind of in a unprecedented times with what is happening here with this fantasy championship.
I definitely hope for the easiest outcome. The easiest outcome is they're like, hey, after week 8, we're going to play this on a Thursday night before the playoffs start. We're going to push the playoffs back a week, or week 18, or whatever the hell it's going to be. That would be the easiest one. Then I just hit the button, and whoever plays in the game and scores points, then boom. But second easiest is two people in the title game coming together and being like, yo, we'll just split this, or I think I probably had like a 40% chance of actually winning this thing. Man, why don't you take 60? I'll take 40.
Sure.
Like, we'll just call it a deal. I know in like some of these leagues, you're almost have a sigh of relief when it's just done. Like, you already know the title was locked up. Nobody had anybody involved in the game. Like your lineup leagues, if they didn't start somebody in there, it's just done. It's over with. Some of these best ball leagues, you got like 100-point lead, 60,
Right.
70-point lead, and the only player in the game is like Quentin Morris, right, on the other side. Like, there's come on, man. Miss me with the fact that Quentin Morris was going to score you 60.
That's where I'm
Get
at.
the fuck
too.
out of here.
Like, if it's decided and it's clearly decided, I pick a winner. I hope, given the circumstances, Mike, too, we've seen a lot of people coming together and around, rallying, trying to, either raise money for him, thoughts, prayers, all that stuff. I hope that, given in the circumstances of what's going on, that people can find a way to be amicable about a fantasy matchup. Like, that's just where I'm personally at too. So
I get it, though. I mean, emotions do come into play. We play this and we grind our asses off for 17 weeks plus, and especially in Dynasty, it's a year-round deal, right? Trying to make these teams the best they can. And Adam, let's I mean, we do it because we like the sport, right? But if there was no money involved, no championship at the end, how many people would actually play fantasy football, right?
Yep.
You may do a league or here with your buddies, right? But the reason that you and I do 30 plus leagues, right? We do a show. The reason that people come on and talk to us is because there's money involved. I mean, we don't have to sugarcoat that bullshit. That's why people are playing this actual game. So I will say, I hope human nature is a good thing in this case, right? It's not the greed, and people can just come together and go, hey, let's just nip this shit in the bud. But I think generally, like, my advice as a commissioner is to more set a plan in place and kind of leave it up to the people involved in the championship to work it out between themselves. Like, that's probably the easiest thing to do. Just you guys figure it out. But I do know there's people out there. There's some hardheads. There's some assholes that we've encountered in multiple leagues where I can't trust them. So that's why I'm saying I got to have a plan where it's like, here's the go-to. If you guys work it out, great. And if you don't, here's the fallback. And I know it sucks, but we got to draw a hard line somewhere where it is what it is.
Yeah, I get that. And as the commissioner, you eventually have to step in if that comes to that scenario. For me, and I guess this is why I don't like, not saying that you shouldn't do it or someone shouldn't do this in their league. This is my personal opinion on why I don't like someone just winning the matchup if it was really supposed to be close. Because if you're in that driver's seat, right, of course you want to say you won on paper because those games they went your way. If it's the flip side, though, like, you can't tell me anybody, and if you can, maybe you should do it that way. But you can't tell me if you weren't on the flip side, you wouldn't be pounding the table saying I had all these studs that I want to at least see what they did. Like, I think that's where it kind of becomes. I think one side that's winning would prefer it, and the side that's losing, obviously not. So it's hard to take bias out of a scenario like that,
I think everybody knows deep down in their heart too, like when they look at it, whether they were going to win or lose. Going into that game, I had a feeling, out of 7 championships, right, I looked at 4 of them, and I'm like, these are locks. Like, these are done. Whether they were actually done or not, but I'm going like, I got this dude and this dude and this dude and a lead, and I'm going up against like Stephon Diggs alone. Like, no fucking way. No way. No way I'm going to miss on all 4 of these guys. And Stephon Diggs, in the best ball league, scores enough to outscore 4 fucking people. And I already have the lead. I would say the ones that are real tough is like the scenario you're talking about where it's like this guy's got like 5 dudes to go and like projected to win by 6. It's like, fuck. Yeah. Those are the ones where a razor thin, where I think you got to have somebody step in, and, a split would probably be the best for both of them.
Right.
There's definitely a couple leagues where, like, mathematically I'm still in it. I need like Joe Mixon to put up a 40 burger, which isn't unheard of, but let's just say it's probably unlikely, man. Like, even me in that situation, I'm like, I'll just go to the guy who's in first and be like,
right.
If you want to split it with me, great, but I'm not gonna no cap here, man. I'm not fronting. I probably wouldn't win in this fucking one anyways. Like, it would have taken a miracle. So you want to just take down the pod, take down the pod. It is what it is.
So Wyatt, that was kind of us answering that question. What are we doing with our leagues, payouts and stuff like that? congrats, man. Thanks to you guys. I locked up 2 titles. Just
Congrats,
wanted to
Wyatt.
stop by and say thank you. Best in the business, and I appreciate what you do. We appreciate you, man. And without you coming in here and giving us the hard questions, letting us know what you think and what you're doing in your leagues, we can't do anything. So we appreciate it, man. We do.
Let's shift to something not as morose, man, because
Okay.
this is it. Man, even talking about it, I didn't say a lot in the Discord last night. I stayed off of Twitter, just kind of read some comments and stuff. But it's a tough subject to talk
It's
about,
hard,
man.
man. It's horrible.
And outside of fucking Skip Bayless, like most of the people who were talking about it last night, the talking heads did a great job.
They had a lot of heart about it, right?
Dude, it was such a hard situation for that Monday Night Football broadcast to be put in, and then the people back in the studio, and they're like, I can't believe they're going back to the field. Like, it's something we've never experienced before. So, I give them credit. It's fucking hard for me to talk about, right? It's scary. It was unsettling, and I have no stake in it. I don't know DeMar Hamlin personally. I've never met the guy, but this is a game I love and I'm passionate about, and I feel for it. And I've been in that situation, playing with teammates. Like, I know what they're going through when you see a teammate suffer a serious injury like that. Not to that fucking extent, which makes it all the more terrifying, right? Like, I see a guy, tear his knee up and know that his career is probably done, and how badly you feel for him. I've never seen somebody that needed CPR actually on the field in front of my eyes. So, tough situation to talk about, but let's shift gears, Adam. The thumbnail.
Yeah.
A tale of 2 wide receivers this championship week for sure.
Mike Evans, man. I didn't think I was going to bust out this creamsicle all the rest of the year, man. And Mike Evans went old vintage, like go bananas, Mike Evans on it.
Let's face it, man. Mike Evans,
third place, I hope you're happy.
Yeah. If you actually did make it to the finals with Mike Evans, congratulations. You probably won money, and it's one of those situations we're talking about where I don't think it was probably close, right? You don't have to worry about splitting pots. You're just fine. But Mike Evans for most of the season, Adam, has not been good. He's actually been pretty disappointing to people. Where would you say right now, I mean, after 48.7 PPR points in the championship week, number 1 wide receiver by far and away overall, how would you value Mike Evans for 2023? Now, some things to keep in mind. What's the situation with the quarterback? Is Tom actually back? Is he gone? Is Tom in New Orleans or on some other team? And we're looking at Kyle Trask or whoever the fuck else, right? Mike Evans is probably going to be in Tampa Bay unless he gets traded. So how do you have an outlook for Mike Evans, like right now? Just after
so, I mean, personally, like if you want the real answer, like it hasn't moved much for me at all on Mike Evans. Like that performance was good to see. Like, I'm not going to say it wasn't good to see him still have that and Tom Brady still have a great game, but like it doesn't change my valuation of him at all. So I think right now, especially once everything is figured out in your leagues and you're going to move forward, like if I can sell him off of this game, I would do it, dude. I mean, this is a guy that's going to be going into year 30 when we start next year. And not just that, Mike, and I like Evans. I've liked Evans for a long time, but like this isn't the best separator. And like, I think I just don't know. He's got a big frame. I just don't know if these blow up type games are going to exist as he continues to age, where I think I would love to sell the name on Mike Evans. Obviously, I would buy cheap enough in best ball, especially, but I'd probably say, like, I'd rather have a first.
I agree, man. I would take any first from Mike Evans right now. No cap there.
Yeah,
doesn't matter. Contender rebuilder. I'd love to get on Mike Evans for a first. Adam, the one that kind of came to mind now, not style of play, not game. The only thing I'm talking about is just value comparison with Mike Evans for what he's given you and what he's actually worth on your team.
Yeah.
Adam, I get a lot of like Tyler Lockett vibes now is where Mike Evans should properly be valued.
As a value in Dynasty?
Yes, as a value in Dynasty, right? That's
appropriate.
This guy who can still produce, you're probably going to value him as like a wide receiver 3 flex type. And anything you get above it, great. Anything below, I mean, it is what it is. The cost isn't that much. So, like Tyler Lockett kind of been disrespected for the last couple of years, and it was always a value. It didn't matter. Like it always seemed like Tyler Lockett was a value. I think that's where we're headed with Mike Evans, right? Maybe with a little bit more name. Maybe
Well,
with a little bit
that's
more name.
where like I think you're probably correct, but I also think a couple things. One, before the hand injury, Tyler Lockett was like wide receiver 8.
Yes.
I don't. I could be wrong. I don't think the days of Mike Evans being a top 12 receiver still probably exist. I just don't see it personally. Now,
That's fair.
like dynasty value, probably appropriate. And I think the thing with Evans and why I say sell is I think listen, if you're in a sharp league where everybody's tapped into stuff like this or Destination Devy, Matt Kelly, whoever they're listening to, I mean, you may have a hard time selling Mike Evans, but like I think in a lot of your leagues, you can probably sell Mike Evans off the name, like you talked about, Mike. And I think that's the point where, like, if I have Evans on any of my teams, like I'll check the GM tool right now, but like all the Evans shares I have, strong contenders that either probably lost in the semis because Mike Evans did nothing or whatever. Like I'm wanting to get out and re-roll that into something that I can still play with on pretty much those builds. Given what I think his name value is. Now, if this game didn't happen and he started to get into that second round territory, like I think we're talking about something different. But coming off of a 200-yard or was it 1 touchdown or 2 touchdowns?
3.
3 touchdowns, 200 yards, Mike.
3.
I would like to get off of this guy if I can, please.
I will say this: while Tyler Lockett was wide receiver 8, he definitely wasn't valued like that heading into the season. Right? He was
Agreed.
a 12th round. He was a 12th round pick, and I think you and I may have touched on it in some place, but Tyler Lockett has just kind of been known as a value, disrespected. Right?
Yep.
Some of the other receivers that guys in the 9th round like D Hop, Michael Thomas, Allen Robinson, Gabe Davis, like that's where I thought Tyler Lockett should go all along, but if I make that case with Mike Evans, right? If you're getting Mike Evans in the 9th round, the 8th, 9th round of your startups next year, or you're paying that kind of price, I'm cool with it. I just don't think it's a first. I don't think it's a first. I think it's probably an early second at best.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll sell for a first. Honestly, in this class, would you buy for an early second yet?
Would I buy? I mean, I'd have to have a very specific type team, right?
I don't think I am. Not yet. Not now.
I would be more comfortable like some of these contenders that you built for multiple years, right? In best ball, especially buying for if I just had an early second laying around, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I wouldn't do it now though.
Mike,
like at the wide receiver position, no, there's no reason to do it now or in the next 3 or 4 months. Let's be honest.
Let me summarize quickly what I think I'm trying to say here, and because I think you're right about the dynasty valuation. But what I think is that I think his name carries more weight than like Tyler Lockett does, and his value is probably higher for most people.
Yes.
And I think that his production will not warrant anywhere near what his price is, likely. And because of that, I think there's so many scenarios where I can get a receiver cheaper that's going to give me probably similar production, truthfully. Like that's just the reality of where I'm at with him.
That's fair. I don't want to put a cap like right now, January 3rd, on like where Mike Evans could finish or if he ever has like a top 12 wide receiver. Like Adam, after what we saw from DeAndre Hopkins in 2021, I didn't think he'd ever come out of the gates and just be as good as he was from a fantasy standpoint, right?
Sure.
Like if you had that DeAndre Hopkins from week 1, I mean, you're talking about a guy who's, you said Tyler Lockett's a top 8 wide receiver. D Hop might have finished as a top 4, top 3 wide receiver. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to put a cap on him. I do agree. I do have some concerns. Just like his game definitely isn't Tyler Lockett as far as separation. He's more in the DeAndre Hopkins type role,
sure.
And it would take a situation change probably to a better offense and a better quarterback if we think it's going to be Kyle Trask for sure. But I still think D Hop can be a value. I don't see it in the next like 5-6 months. Like people will still have the name value of Mike Evans, right? Like I don't think you're going to get that value. You might get that in like July, August, best case scenario. If you wanted to buy into Mike Evans, that'd probably be the time to do it. But
I'm with you. And I mean, that's my opinion. It doesn't mean I'm right. I mean,
That's fair.
I've had some pretty bad opinions in the past. Just from what I've seen this year, like I don't know where he'll finish wide receiver wise, but if you take out that big game, which you can't take it out because it happened. It was not a good season for Mike Evans, and I think he's getting older, and I'm not even sure Brady comes back, and there's a lot of stuff in limbo for him with me. Anyway, that's kind of with Mike Evans. Mike, I pulled it up on Dynasty GM too. I don't have a single share anymore. I traded
You
most of them.
lucky,
I traded
lucky
most of
man,
them. Yeah. And,
lucky.
I mean, I didn't win any titles because he went off in the title game, but I unloaded a lot of Evans when it was starting to look scary before it got bad on price.
All right, before we get into the questions, the meat of the show, right? I got plenty of time. We don't have anything else going on here, man, and I need this. But the other person on the thumbnail, Justin Jefferson, we kind of got a question on the recap about Justin Jefferson. 2.5 fantasy points. Definitely didn't help you do anything.
What
in
up,
week
Barry?
17. Definitely did not help you do anything. Probably lost you a week, to be honest, right? As
Well,
good as he's been, what you've been relying on him, how he's been carrying your team to put up a 2.5 spot in week 17 championship is just a massive kick in the nuts. Adam.
like I have in a now. Let me just give you a little preface here. Redraft league, work league. So like I'm not. Trades don't happen, right? So it's like you draft and you do the wire, and it's so opposite of how you and I and everyone probably tuned in here likes to play fantasy football now. You know, one quarterback, all that shit. Mike, I ended up going to the playoffs because I took Justin Jefferson. I was in this dead zone where like I didn't want to take any of the running backs. I actually hated my draft, but get there. I got the Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson stack, Mike. And let me just tell you that the doors were beaten off of me in this title game. I mean, it was not close. You have Kirk Cousins and Jefferson stack? Like, there's just no way if that team in the championship's competent that you won. It's just too much against your team.
Right. You're riding such a high, right? Week 14, week 15, week 16, and then just.
Like, I sneak in, right, because of those guys, like that, some of those huge games, and then, win and win because of them. And then, I mean, just there's nothing. The game was completely anticlimactic,
Is there any movement? Like I'm going to ask you, is there any movement in your mind with how you value or how you appreciate Justin Jefferson after this week?
No, I don't think for anyone it should change. Like I think, let me tell you what I think personally. I think that receivers still, while like Jefferson and Chase hold tremendous dynasty value, based on the nature of the position, there's going to be weeks of fluctuation, right? They have boom potential, especially those two that are close to unmatched from skill players, right? I mean, they can go bananas. Justin Jefferson can win a game, win a fantasy title, win a fantasy matchup. But we've seen this isn't the first time we saw Justin Jefferson have a really bad game, and I think that's true of all receivers. And I
definitely were piling on the receivers like week 2 and 3, tweets
in the the young immature days when I was going at all those receivers, yeah, man. But I mean, Mike, he was wide receiver 1 week 1, right? Then he was wide receiver 46, wide receiver 83 week 2 and week 3. So like we saw him do nothing for 2 weeks. I think he's going to have bad weeks like this. You really hate it and hope that it's not during the fantasy title when you're relying on him to win you one. But so no, I don't think it doesn't change how I view Justin Jefferson. He's still the wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. I think he should be taken right after the elite quarterback group. Like, it's just my opinion.
I'm sure we'll have this conversation too. Like, there's going to be a Chase Jefferson debate that probably rages again all offseason, just like it did last offseason, right? It's never going to die. It's never going to go. I will say this. I would still value Justin Jefferson as wide receiver 1, but I do think, kind of like what you said, it's a little bit of a wake-up call about the guys who think that the wide receivers will just carry them every single week. Like, they're still fantasy players, they're still NFL players, and they're still prone to bad weeks. I don't know if it's more or less than the running back position, but it generally seems like running backs, when they're healthy and playing, are a little bit more consistent. Like the floor is a little bit better.
Right.
It's just what it is.
Yeah. So,
now, the spikes haven't been as great. The wide receiver spikes have been absurd. Absolutely absurd. So I do still think that lends to it, but I bet when we pull our spike week consistency week data for the entire year, we'll still see the same thing where wide receivers are very deep as far as guys who finish with spike weeks and the guys who finish as above average consistent weeks, where running backs are still generally pretty concentrated towards the top guys.
Sure. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Now, Rojo, I mean, listen, you come dunk on us if you want to, but let's keep it real. It wasn't Mooney in the first. Let's add in all the other stuff that was in there, and
let's add in 2 more first, buddy, and then we can talk.
I know you're messing around though, Rojo. I see you in the chat, buddy. I'm playing back too. Come on. If you're gonna throw it in the chat for everybody, you gotta let me put it on the screen. I still, to me, as great as it is, and I don't know. Did you win this league, Rojo?
Looks like he did.
Good for you. Good for you. So honestly, you win a league, like you can forgo what I say, what anybody says about a trade. You win the league. That's the whole idea. So, congrats, by the way. But like for me, still, I in best ball do not want to consolidate all what you did into Jamar Chase. Mooney ended up being a flop, and then he got hurt. But Jamar Chase is still highly valuable. I just don't want to in best ball consolidate like 5 or 6 assets like you did into Chase. But it was definitely a much better deal than we made it out to be as far as being a terrible deal, right? Shit
doesn't matter if you win the championship, right?
Yeah, no question.
You get the right to talk all the shit that you want. And in Rojo's defense, right, proved us wrong. I didn't think it was a good process trade. I still don't think it was a good process trade, but you win your league, and now Adam, he's got Jamar Chase to go sell to some other sucker who wants to pay too much.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I guess that's the thing too is Jamar Chase. What I found out this year, we did a very transparent 4D episode last time.
Yep.
One of the things that I found out this year is that like even when Jamar Chase got hurt for several weeks, like him and Jefferson, and we talked about this on 4D, they have a different level of value retention because like they said there would be a buy window, but was there really? Like
no.
There was, but you had to pay 90% sticker, which was crazy, right? So if you can get out of it at any time too, similarly, to me it's just in best ball having the different shots at the dartboard. Like if you wanted to do that in lineup, I don't think we give you as much of a hard time. Like we probably still would have back then in the summer when we were hating receivers, but like it's just the best ball thing for us, Rojo. But honestly, man, you win the title, shit, you're already playing for free for I don't know how many years, but at least 2 or 3.
Well, it's 100% the best ball thing, right? Because I've been on the opposite spectrum, right? I take the stud and I tear down to multiple shitty pieces.
Right. Yep.
And Rojo, we're in the same boat, man. We're both champions because I skull fuck the shit out of that league all year long.
Boom.
All of them, right?
I love
like
it.
You can have your Jonathan Taylor and you can have your Kyle Pitts. You guys enjoy them. I'm gonna write out Josh Jacobs and fucking Terry McLaurin and whoever the fuck else. Like I'm back in those deals. Worked out well for me. Didn't work out so well for the other guys.
Yep.
That's what it is, man. Justin Jefferson, baby. So yeah, I'm with you, Adam. Full agreement. No change in value for me. Still wide receiver 1.
Yep.
Chase wide receiver 2. I think it's very close between the two.
I think they're in a clear tier ahead too. For the record,
if you want to have Chase ahead of Jefferson, I can't fight you at all. But I don't think there's any fucking competition between 1 and 2.
Before we get out of here, you know what's funny? I'll have little thoughts and then I forget about them because Rojo comes in the chat. So this is what I'll say about what's so crazy about Jefferson, right? Now, when I was talking earlier, I was saying how receivers, I think sometimes have the ability to have a lot of bad weeks just because of the nature of the position, right? But I think what makes Jefferson so different and why when he has 4 weeks where he misses your lineup, it's surprising, Mike, is because of the volume that he gets. Like I want to make sure people understand that the target volume that Justin Jefferson gets with the amount of coverage he gets is outlandish. Mike, like he's when I'm looking here in his game log, there's 3
ridiculous.
There's 3 games where he's not at 8 targets. Right? Now this last one was one of them, but Even then, Mike, it's 5, 6, and 6 targets. Like 99% of the time, Justin Jefferson is going to get feature volume. That's what makes him so great. But I think what's also eye-opening is for a guy that gets force-fed the ball, like that he had 4 weeks that are like outside the top 50, Mike. That's just insane. And I think that's part of the team situation and the quarterback. Like I think Jefferson's still a stud. I wouldn't change his value at all. He's a monster. But like when he gives you a wide receiver 86 week in the championship game, you're shocked because of how he's getting 16, 15, 18 targets in games.
I mean, the only wide receiver you're going to argue over him is Jamar Chase, and we've also seen him have bad weeks.
Sure.
Now he doesn't get targeted near the clip Justin Jefferson does.
I don't think outside of Cooper Kupp, anyone else was going to keep pace with his target volume.
It's kind of the good and the bad, right? Like you like Jamar Chase because of the Cincinnati situation and the Joe Burrow connection, right? Like you're like, oh, I trust this quarterback more. But the downside is T. Higgins is a really good fucking receiver, man. Like really good. Really, really good. I've been on this train for a long time. It's a 1A, 1B situation. And if you want to put Chase at 1A, I can't fucking fight you, but don't disrespect T. Higgins. Like outside of like a handful of fucking teams, and they said it on the broadcast last night, like T. Higgins is the number one receiver for just about any team in the fucking league, period. So T, even when Chase is there, does stuff. And that's kind of a detriment to Jamar Chase, right? It'd be really interesting to see if Justin Jefferson ever got like a caliber of wide receiver on the other side of him like T. Higgins. And then we'll see if we like shit talk him as much as we do. Right? You know what I mean? But we won't. We won't. The point is, the way the situation is staying right now, Chase, Jefferson, there's no question about it. They're 1 and 2.
Chase, Jefferson, tier break, I think is the way you put it, period.
In a pretty substantial tier break, right?
At least Dynasty value, Mike, it's gigantic, I think.
Let me say this, man. Whoever you have at 3, and it probably should be CeeDee Lamb.
It's CeeDee Lamb. It's not probably. It's CeeDee Lamb.
Adam, I will say this. There's a lot closer distance between a guy like CeeDee Lamb and, let's say, an Amon-Ra St. Brown than there is between CeeDee Lamb and Chase or Jefferson.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
There's a closer distance between CeeDee Lamb and, like, Amon-Ra St. Brown than there is between CeeDee Lamb and Chase and Jefferson.
I would agree. I
like
think
you could probably go down to wide receiver
least,
like 8 or 9, and like that feels closer.
I think at least
does between the gap between 2 and 3.
I think at least in perceived value, that's correct.
Okay, fair.
I'm with you on perceived value for sure. Like and let me just say, like I'm pulling up Keep Trade Cut as you're doing this. That's why I was like half listening. Why I had to have you ask it again. But
we got to go to our favorite website. Man.
Yeah, we got to just tune into the people that know, the experts. That's you guys, right? The experts. Everybody tapping in. Look at the crowdsourced data. Mike, Justin Jefferson, in their value. Don't get me started on the algorithm, the value, the trade calcs. But he's almost at 10K value, right?
Holy fuck.
Now, to give you an idea of what that means, Mike, that's ahead of everybody by a lot that's not named Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen.
Jesus Christ.
So Mike, 999, 4 nines, right? That's Patrick Mahomes, that's Josh Allen. That's basically like in Madden when it's like you juice the create a player, there's nowhere to go up. Like 9999, right?
They won't let me go to 100.
Awareness 99, like that's it. Like you can't go any higher, right? Justin Jefferson's 9796, Mike. Okay,
he's getting awfully close to that.
Now to give you the what you're talking about, which is funny, I was kind of wanting to get to the same point as I'm pulling this up. Mike, the next closest player is Jalen Hurts. All right, Jalen Hurts is at 8484.
Get the fuck out of here,
Mike. You know who's fifth?
Joe Burrow. No, Chase.
Same team. Yeah, Jamar Chase.
Chase.
8249. Okay, then you got Joe Burrow. 8243, but when you go down quite a bit, Mike, to CeeDee Lamb, to your point, 6639.
3,000 fucking point difference plus.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, Mike, 6122.
All right, there it is, man. Keep trade cut has
Perceived value.
confirmed.
Now you gave the great names with it, but I was kind of looking for the same talking point, and
I get you, man.
honestly, I think that's where, Mike, for me, like, I love Jefferson. Like, I've come around on Jefferson quite a bit from where we were in the summer.
Yeah.
But if I can get out at 9.7, 9.6, Mike, sorry, like, he's gone. As much as I've come around, and it will admit he's wide receiver 1 in Dynasty for sure, I'm out at that price.
I mean, you're talking about, according to that, right, getting CeeDee Lamb or an Amon-Ra St. Brown and a significant plus. Whether that's a first or whether that's an actual player or whatever the hell it may be, that's a big fucking deal.
Mike, would you trade Justin Jefferson for Joe Burrow today?
Straight up, 100%. I'll take the quarterback.
So right now you get a second, maybe something.
I probably got like 6 fucking quarterbacks I would take before those wide receivers.
I know. I'm just making the case in point of, like, there's people out there that would say you need to add a second to Joe Burrow to go get Justin Jefferson.
That's wild.
I'm just would you take Jalen Hurts straight up for
100%.
Justin Jefferson? Would you take Justin Herbert?
Yep.
Would you take where does the line draw then there? Like T-Law and Lamar, you think about it?
T-Law and Lamar, like, we're having a conversation, and I probably still lean the quarterback, right? I saw something on Twitter today where, like, positional scarcity is not really a thing. It's a myth. That's full of shit, man. It actually really is a thing. It really is a thing. I can find wide receivers. I have a hard fucking time finding elite quarterbacks. A really hard time. And even Adam, I don't know how many of these leagues, man, I thought I had him, right? I told you guys about that. I actually won a fucking league with going in. I made some deals to get Russ and Matt Stafford in the offseason, right? It's like 14-team Superflex. I need elite quarterbacks to compete in this league. Neither one of them are elite. Neither one of them. So how I pulled that win out of my ass, I have no idea. The luckiest son of a bitch alive to win that league outright. But I will say this, even when you think that you're acquiring elite quarterbacks, there's a difference between elite, Adam, and what you perceive to be elite. And those are two dudes that we perceive to be elite that weren't fucking elite. They weren't. They ended up being shit.
Yeah, and you know,
shit.
That was a point I didn't make on 4D, Mike. I'm glad you said that. I probably talked a little bit about it, but, like, lessons from this year, Mike, like, when I evaluate a player that's especially getting into this, like, top 50 range, when I make a trade, like, I personally, I think, need to do a better job, and I think probably everyone should at least think about this, even if you did a good job this year. If everything goes right for this player, what's the outcome?
There it is.
And if everything goes wrong for this player, what's the outcome, right? And I think when you buy aging assets, like, if you do a honest evaluation of that, like, we see what Keenan Allen's value became this year, right? We see, like, what happens when Cooper Kupp gets hurt, right? It's not that the ceiling can't be there when it's right, but when it goes wrong, what is your pivot? And to me, Mike, that is what makes Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase way more interesting than they ever were to me a year ago. Is the loss and the value retention on them is astonishing.
And they're some of the only wide receivers that could. Like, say CeeDee Lamb suffers some sort of major injury. Do you think people value him the same? No.
Well, Mike, he didn't even suffer an injury. His quarterback suffered an injury, and there was Drake London ahead of him talk.
That's fair. That's fair, man.
Like, it should just show you the difference in those two from the group.
Anybody out there, too, like, I challenge you, at least with quarterbacks, other than Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, who we just established are kind of a different breed at wide receiver. But with quarterbacks, like, you know, we talk shit and we've been down on Kyler Murray, but we've also said that even off of this injury, he's still a top 12 quarterback, no question about it.
Yeah, no way.
Like, I don't know how many leagues I've tried to acquire Kyler Murray, like, thinking I'm going to get some sort of, like, injury discount. Even people who are in the playoffs are facing a championship, right? And they know they don't have Kyler. And I'm like, hey, you know, I got a Kirk Cousins. I'll give you a Kirk Cousins straight up for Kyler Murray. Even those people tell you to go get fucked. Kyler Murray not playing, giving them a guaranteed 0 in the title game where they could win money, have told you to get fucked, even by giving them a QB 14 or QB 15. They're like, nah, I ain't doing it. I ain't doing it.
Yeah, get bent. They're saying. Let's at least get to some questions. Man, we got so
Let's
many
do it,
to
man.
get to. All right, so
I'm good, man. I got time. We're not recording anything else.
We got time. I know we do. I'm not trying to, discourse the conversation, but we got people in here asking our questions.
We got to save some shit for 4D, right? We can't put it all out. Well, otherwise we run out of ideas.
I'm not gonna say that's the case because I don't think I've ever had a hard time getting on here and be like, how are we gonna talk? What are we gonna say today?
My favorite thing to talk about.
League moving from start 8 to start 9 in 2024. I'm coming out of a rebuild and should be competitive in 2023. How would you weigh trades, roster constructions this offseason? So first thing I'll say, Alex, is either way, start 8, start 9, like the difference is so minimal. It's all about properly having some depth, because we saw this year, we saw last year how many injuries can derail teams, like in situations if you're too top heavy. But this format lends itself to, I'll say this, especially when you talk studs, Mike, like if there is a way, Alex, for you to get Patty Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Lamar, Fields, Kyler, those guys. Like one thing I've learned in lineup in this format is the overpays are just that on paper. Because like if you hold 2 or 3 of these, one, you have a positional advantage and there's only 7 guys or 6 guys in start 8 to catch up. So that's such a big win advantage for you. And 2, they just, in this format, those quarterbacks hold astronomical weight. So, and like you talked about, Kyler Murray's hurt and you can't trade for him at all. So, like, those are the biggest edges for me in this format, especially, is like the star quarterbacks and even the guys that aren't stars but in that top 20 range. Like, if you can properly construct 2 or 3 of them and then flip the others, like, you can go ham in these type leagues.
It ain't the worst thing, too, if you're not entirely trying to compete in 23. Like, you're kind of waiting for 24. I was so generally in these leagues, depth isn't a bad thing. Like, that league I was just talking about, that 14 team. Adam, you and I have talked about it before, where I was like, I'll be competitive. I don't think I'm winning this league. And I've had multiple people try to get my first off me. The biggest thing I learned in lineup leagues is variance is one hell of a motherfucker, man. Variance is one hell of a motherfucker. Like I said, I went in with Russ and Stafford. And then, it wasn't looking good earlier in the year. Fields was playing like dog shit. Like my quarterback situation was fucked in a start 9, 14-team Superflex league. And somehow, through variance, through luck, through matchups that I played, I go from the 5th seed to championship, right? So you don't have to go balls deep. But like Adam said, man, if there's a possibility, I'm not going to say for some of these other quarterbacks, Adam, like the Kylers and the Daks and the Trevor Lawrence, but if there's an opportunity to get a Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, you got to pull the trigger on it. You got to pull the trigger on it. They don't come available, and in start 8, start 9, those are going to be guys that are going to lead you to championships for multiple years. And I will throw in Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase into that equation. I will throw in Mark Andrews. Unless like 23 is like really in the realm of possibility, I don't think you want to be in the Travis Kelce market unless somebody's letting him go for stupid cheap, just because I don't know how long he has left.
Well, flippability with him is weird, so that's part of the problem too. Yes.
But in general, man, Alex, like you're going to need some depth. If you kind of just slow play 23, I'm kind of hoping to be better than I was. I got some depth. You don't have to go all in, but play the variance, man. The best advice I can give to anybody is play the variance in lineup leagues. I'm not going to do it in best ball leagues, Adam. We kind of talked about that before. But in lineup leagues, I will play the piss out of variance. And sometimes just making it in the playoffs is all you need, man. Getting in that 5th or 6th seed, you don't know what the fuck's going to happen. Lineup leagues are wild as fuck.
Yeah, I think in this league too, Alex, the start 9 lineups, and that was like the first 3 I did. They were, start 9 lineups because that was like a traditional thing, especially 2021. It was kind of like a very popular startup and way that people played. And Mike, and to your point, right? Like, okay, yeah, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. When Ray says bam tier by any means necessary, yeah, you go do it. Period. But like to me, Mike, in this format, especially too, like Burrow, Herbert, Lamar, Lawrence, Hurts, all these other fields, it's the same principle because honestly, Mike, like, okay, if you can get Mahomes and Allen, I don't care what it costs. You just do it. Like you can fill shit running backs in. You can find a way to get replacement level receivers in, and those two have a significant edge. But like Mike, to me, if you have Mahomes or Allen and you can go buy Trevor Lawrence, like it's the same principle to me. Like it's by any means necessary because now I have 2 top 8 guys, and I have 2 guys that are not going anywhere anytime soon. So that's the thing with me. For me anyway, I've learned in these type leagues. Lock down 2 of the 12 studs. Don't make them completely untouchable, but make the price so ridiculous that quarterback values go way north. And that's what happens in these leagues, right? The market forces quarterback value to go up. And then what do? I play up that with Daniel Jones, Jared Goff. And I keep my studs and let those other teams that need quarterback pay up for these type guys.
I like it, man. I like it. I'm in. I will say this: I'm a piss poor planner, and I have to pee like a racehorse.
You go do that. I'll riff like Dynasty Barry said while you go piss. Yeah, you riff and I'll riff and you piss. All right, so let's get into some other questions other than Rojo clowning. So here, actually, Rojo, I'll pull this one up. There's people in this channel and in Heisman chat in the league that can confirm I won the shit. I agree 100% that Teardown works for my home leagues. But when I'm in a ragey wake-up show league, continued, that everyone is trying to tear down, let's tear up, baby. Now, okay, this is a good conversation, Rojo, actually, because like Mike and I kind of really pushed the agenda in best ball about tearing down. And I think in a lot of the leagues that we're in, because we're probably listening to the same sources, like it became overly popular to tear down. So like for me, I was in a rebuild in the Royal Rumble. I don't know if he's in here or not. Shout out to Chase. Chase won. Trophy Chase won the Royal Rumble. But like in the Royal Rumble, especially Rojo, for me, I found out that like this, and I kind of saw a scenario where this was going to come, but I was able to do a lot of moves where you craftily tear up because you can kind of sense tear downs are so desperate. So I'll try to pull up some trades. Maybe get back into them once the big guy gets done pissing, leaving me out here going solo. But I'm actually with you there, Rojo. Like, I will say this. I think the tier up for Chase, although it won you a league, was more than what I would pay. So I guess that's the difference. But, like, I'm 100% with you that there is times where you can tier up when everyone else really wants to tier down, especially if it's an auction or a league where someone didn't really appropriately use their draft picks, and then they ended up, let's say trading up, and they don't have enough depth. When people don't have enough depth and this tear down approach really becomes crazy, you can definitely tear up. And Mike, just to tell you, and I was telling Rojo how I think this is correct, and in Royal Rumble I tiered up craftily, I think multiple times, because there is a give and take where tear down is appropriate and where everybody's trying to do it because they all want to acquire depth, to where tearing up is actually advantageous.
100%, man. All these shit leagues that we started up, everybody's my picks on the block, I want to tear down, I want to do this.
It's like when you used to be able to trade out of the first and get like the world, right? And now like if you want to do that, like I'll give you a second and maybe a pick like 2 years out, maybe.
Like even that, man, Ray talked about it when he did the 4D, especially with these quarterbacks, right? If you're going to let me get up into 2 top 5 quarterbacks for my second and third round startup pick,
have it.
Bye.
Right. No, and I agree with you there, but it's like, okay, if people don't understand best ball or it's their first few times and they make a bunch of those trades of tearing up and then it's like, oh shit, like
that fucks them in the end, right?
right.
Best
And
ball's
then
a
they
little bit of a
realize
different
like I
deal.
need so much depth. Then that can actually cause the league to try to tear down as a whole, and that's I think where Rojo's right in that scenario. You can play up the tier up.
Yeah, I love to do this not only in tier up or tier down, man. Rojo, like this is just kind of a way of life for me in Dynasty, but I love zigging when other people are zagging. Period. You
Hey,
know, everybody wants to draft wide receivers. I'll draft the fucking running backs. Everybody wants to draft the running backs. Adam's seen it. Like me being a wide receiver fucking hater. What I end up with?
Mike, I did
Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb.
Mike, I did this in I know shit worldwide. And as a matter of fact, this is
100%.
it's funny because this is the league you tiered up for the 2 quarterbacks in a trade with me, fucker. And I was forced to take receivers because everybody drafting with us was going for, more of our talk at the time. I'm trying to pull up the draft results, Mike, because I want to actually get over what we did here. All right, so Josh Allen and Herbert was what you took, Mike. How much more would you have liked to have taken Mahomes over Justin Herbert right now?
Oh, a lot.
Okay.
Did I fuck that up? Did I take Herbert before Mahomes?
You went Allen Herbert. I mean, it's not
shit.
I mean, Mike, everybody was taking Mahomes was 103 in ADP in the summer.
I know, man.
I'm just
we are some disrespectful fucks.
All
That's
right, Mike.
what we are.
So you ready for what I did? Now, you and I made this trade, right? So you got 102. I got 205. No, 207. 307. And you got, man, this was a terrible trade for me. What was
looking back on it now, right?
707. No, 711. So I gave you 711 and 102, and you gave me 207 and 307. So anyway,
I think we did a podcast on this too, where you thought that there would be quarterbacks there for you in the second or third round, and there just wasn't.
Right. So what happened was a couple things. One, the running back tier, which I would have lost out on taking anyway, also was gone. Pitts was gone. And literally before that, Mike, was Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, who was going to be suspended for 12 games when we made this draft.
Yep.
And Matthew Stafford. They were all gone. But that whole group, Mike, was gone before I even got on the clock.
Bro, could you imagine how bad you feel today if that was your first pick right there was Stafford?
Now, I took Breece Hall, so they both basically got hurt.
Nah,
Breece Hall retained value, right? Breece Hall retained
yep.
value. I'm not trying to act like they're the same thing in Dynasty.
You did all right. All right.
And then I took A.J. Brown in the third because, like, it got criminal. All the running backs were gone. All the quarterbacks were gone. Derek Carr went in the second round, man, in this draft.
The fuck?
I'm just reading what I'm looking at.
Listen, I'm the
point
biggest
being
Derek
though, Mike.
Carr defender.
Point being though, in the tier up here, right? You got, even if it's Justin Herbert, let's acknowledge that you whiffed on not taking Mahomes.
For sure.
Justin Herbert or Zeke versus A.J. Brown and Breece Hall, it's not close. Even when Breece Hall was peaking, I don't think it's that close.
Yeah. Even where we're at right now with Justin Herbert, right, where people are kind of
trending down.
No. Right. A little bit worried.
Nope.
He went from potential 101 to like some people's 105 right now. Let's be honest.
Now I got a question on the screen, kind of trying to transition here. Mike, I was just talking in Discord before we hopped on here about how, Evan, this isn't actually a shot at you. This is me just playing. So please understand that I'm not judgmental. I play a lot. All we do on shit is play and fuck around with people. But
yes.
I was talking about how people that play in 16-team Superflex, like they're so degenerate, like they actually need to be committed. So that was literally the word I said. It was
Evan, you do need to be committed, man. I don't know how you stomach a 16-team Superflex.
I
hate 14-team enough.
I actually love the fact that people do play these leagues because
you got bigger balls than me, man.
It is truly, like, I think it is who the haves and haves nots because of how scarce quarterbacks are. Like, if you have the quarterbacks, you love a 16-team league. And when you don't, you want out of it.
You fucking hate it. Unless you're one of those lucky fucks who ended up with, like, Jared Goff and Daniel Jones, and you've been doing just fine.
I mean, in 16-team, you probably reached on Geno, and you still probably loved it. But point is,
you love it.
So Evan says here, 16-team Superflex start 10. I know it's gross. All right, so he's acknowledging it's gross. I wouldn't say it's gross. It's just the scarcity becomes overly obnoxious. I'm in a rebuild with Kyler, the 102 and the 103. Love hearing this. 16 team, I really love hearing those two because of what we just talked about. Wide receivers are A.J. Brown, Smitty, J-Mo, Watson, and RBs and tight ends are very weak. That's not a problem. Going QB with 102 and 103, it's not even a debate.
10,000%, man.
Let me ask you this, Mike. If at 101, let's say 101 is not Bijan. Let's say 101 is not Bijan.
Fuck.
Now,
that's what I'm saying.
Because here's the thing. I think in 16 team, it's still actually a conversation, as crazy as this is, Mike. Do you still, because you have 102, like if you had 102 or 103 and Bijan came to you and that was your only pick there, like I think it's no question Bijan. But Adam, because you have both, is it better to leverage and go like, okay, let's say whoever it is, let's say it's Bryce, CJ, Levis. Are you better off just taking the other two quarterbacks that are best on your board and just saying, I'm going to leverage these fuckers?
I will say this. In a lot of leagues where I own the 102, Adam, right? Like I'm praying, right? We kind of talked about it with Ray.
Praying on the quarterback reach?
I'm praying somebody's like, I'll take Anthony Richardson 101. I'll take CJ Stroud. I don't give a fuck. Take anybody with Bijan 101. Because, like, you just gifted me Bijan at 102. Thank you very much. I'll move on with my life. This is format.
This is what makes Mike a sicko. Go ahead.
This is the one fucking format where if that happened to me, I would legit be mad. I would legit be pissed. Now, what I would do if that happened, Adam, and somebody did that, is I would try to trade because I hope there's somebody out there who loves Bijan desperately, right? And I could get a quarterback, or I could move back maybe to the 104 or the 105 and potentially get, the last quarterback in the first round or whatever the case may be. But if it's Bijan at 101, no question about it, I'm taking quarterback at 2 and 3. If somebody took quarterback at 101, I would legit be mad. Like, I would be throwing shit.
I'll be honest with you.
Motherfuckers, how dare you do this to me?
If that happened, Mike, I would be more entertaining shopping these picks, actually, because I think someone might come up for Bijan still.
Yeah.
I'll say this, honestly. Like, this is probably, and Evan, this is why I say you need to be committed, not you personally, but like 16-team leagues are just insane. Mike, I think even still there, like, and I'm not going to say with the Bijan going or not going, like, but I think in this scenario, this is one where because the scarcity's so high, like we talk all the time about how picks are more valuable, and then once you press the button, outside of the rare air like prospects, they're going to lose a touch of value just because you've already taken a player. It's not the pick anymore, Mike, I think in a 16-team league, Superflex, start 10. So, Mike, the dynamics are in start 10, the quarterbacks only can be caught by 8 players, right? So it's still small enough to where the quarterbacks are highly valuable, and it's 16 teams. So if everybody has 2, that's the whole starting NFL. That's all of the starters. Like that's, Mike, if I can take both of them, so if I can take CJ and Levis, if I can take, Richardson and like I'll just do that, and I think that's the one scenario. I'm like, even if like it doesn't go great for them in camp and early in the season, where like you don't actually lose any value by pressing the button on somebody. Like quarterbacks are just, they're so valuable.
I will say this too, in a 16 team, if you're thinking about it as well, Adam, where are 102 and 103 probably going to slide? It doesn't matter. Pick one of these 4 quarterbacks if they get the draft capital. If Richardson and Levis get
Mike,
the draft
they're in the
capital
second round. They're in the second round.
Not even that, but think about it like in the QB landscape. Like we think QB1, right? You got to be a top 12 quarterback. Well, you're in a 16-team fucking league, so what's a QB1, right? A top 16 quarterback. You're drafting quarterbacks, and we talked about it with Ray. I think all these guys are going to be somewhere in that 14 to like 18, 19 range.
Which is my point. You
could literally be drafting 2 QB1s in your league dynamics at 2 and 3.
But well, you will be. I don't think it's
not literally. You will.
You will because Mike, think about it, right? So you have right now when you go, we're just going to keep using the crowdsourced, our fan favorite keep trade cut. Mike, outside the top 12, you get to like scary land, really, right? You got the question mark and upside of Trey Lance. 14's Pickett. 15's Danny Dimes. who people were
So
they're crucifying, Mike.
crucified
Now,
that
Mike, I
man.
called that. I told you Danny Dimes was disrespected on Sunday recap, and he should be going up, and he did. Jared Goff at 16. Jared Goff was, cast off. Like, we're going to send him to Detroit to die, right? Like, then you got Kirk Cousins at 17, Mike. Like, just think of how the dynasty timing works. In the offseason, it's a lock. It's a lock. These top 10, 15 quarterbacks are going to go ahead of Pickett in the rankings. Now, where they go in the season, we'll see. But from May to draft time till August, when you hear who's starting or not, they're top 13, 14, 15 quarterbacks. It's just the way it works. I want two of those guys. Mike, if you have two of the top 12 in a 16-team league, you never trade them. You just don't, unless you're staying in that tier. You just don't do it.
Bijan would be pretty fucking dope in a 16-team league, though, as well. But I just don't know if he gives you the warp advantage over, like the shitters you can plug in, like Jamal Williams. You know what I mean?
Mike, think about it this way. The warp advantages, the cost of acquisition, and the name.
Yeah.
I love Bijan. You know that. But, like,
he's dope.
16 teams? Honestly, like, I think you can trade 8 times out of 10 one of these top 15 quarterbacks for more.
I wonder, too, in a 16-team league, like, you got a lot of managers in there who maybe don't think like this, Evan. So it wouldn't be the worst thing to, if somebody passed on Bijan and you had him at the 102 and shop him and see what kind of quarterback they would give you straight up for Bijan.
So that's the different conversation, which is, like, if I just had 102 or 103, I'd probably just take Bijan.
And just move on. Yeah,
but Mike, if I can leverage two of the top 16 quarterbacks in Dynasty at the time of the NFL draft, I'm just going to do that.
Along with the other one he already has in Kyler.
Right. You have Kyler coming off injury. You have those other two. Like, you have 3 of the top 20. And based on the numbers, Mike, if you did everyone split up having 2 quarterbacks, that's every starter. So it's just the leverage thing. That's what it is. And that's why, Evan, for me, because Mike and I are sickos with leverage, we know how fucked up this is and how bad this can get. So, Evan, that personally for me, because you have 102 and 103, I'd probably lean into the quarterback horde. And, Mike, you and I have seen the quarterback horde in 12-team leagues
Adam,
pay massive dividends.
I'm not going to lie, man. In that 14-team league that I was talking about, I do think one of the underappreciated things is the fact that I was QB hoarding in there, right? So
right, 100%.
I talked about Russ and Stafford, but I had Fields, I had Mac Jones, and I had Kenny Pickett. In a 14-team league, I had 5 starting quarterbacks. Like 5 starting quarterbacks all year.
Happy to do it, Evan.
And it's a start 9, right? So at times, like with all these QB injuries and all this shit going on, like you're either starting a turd or you're starting a position player in a start 9 Superflex league.
Mike,
Sucks.
Evan's our guy. Please commit me. It's 16-team Superflex, start 10 defense, 12 or 10 offense, 12 defense.
Fucking Santa Claus shit. Evan sounds perfect for this. Evan, shit best ball.
Yeah,
IDP,
we got a shit best ball
25.
IDP. We got a shit best ball IDP that I think, honestly, $1 a month. You could join the Patreon. Come be a part of this league. You're gonna love it. It's not 16 teams, so it's not as crazy as you want to get.
12 teams, but
it's best ball with a lot of starters. I think you'd enjy it.
I think we're drafting like 70 rounds, right? I think that's where we settled.
Well, that's why I told Zach, I'm like, listen, man, my wife's family is going to be here for about 2 weeks. Like if we're doing this before New Year's, like I will already be dead before the draft's finished. So
I'm excited. I think we need 2 more people to join the league. I'll get the league safe up and then we'll fire it up. But it is like a legit start 25.
Lee says I'm in an 18-team Superflex, but no quarterback spot.
Fucking Lieber, man. This guy is always in wild ass shit.
Is that a Canadian thing?
That it must be a Canadian thing. He does live in
I've never heard of an 18-team league.
The most like desolate, barren part of Canada too. Like,
does he?
There's nothing but like him and grizzly bears.
Bert, where are you living? Because I know Tom's up in the Northwest Territories. Where are you living at, Bert?
Listen, man, Canada's a big country, so
it's massive. All right, so let's keep getting other questions because I know we got a bunch here. Okay, Trip Crown says, I lost the 101 in my home league because of this ridiculous lottery.
Fuck lotteries, man. God, I hate lotteries with a passion.
Well, let me say this. I'm with you. You and I
I'm
play.
with you, Trip, man. I'd be pissed.
So you and I play. We talk about rebuilding, and we strategize for getting the most value in the rebuild, right? So I think that's where the lottery is not good for us. But what I've learned, Mike, is that in lottery leagues, like you have to account for the variance a little differently.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It sucks. It's not my preferred way to play, but you have to kind of prepare for the worst and hedge on some stuff.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
like, I'm a little less likely to just hold my single pick in a class that I think is 101 and appropriately value it that way. Like, I'll just go ahead and lean into getting more picks so I have more lottery shots, or like
That's
do
it.
you know what I mean? You got to do craftful stuff that
Yes.
that helps you get away from like getting so boned on this stuff, because well, you can't control it. I've seen Jag be the 101 by a mile and get the 106. Like, I'm not going to say it's still not possible, but I think there's ways to account for the lottery.
Adam, I will say, like, I had to adapt. In most of the leagues, Ray runs.
They're lotteries, right?
They're lottery, right? And
no, that's what I'm talking about. Those are the ones I've learned that.
I took over that, I've told him flat out that I fucking hate it.
We're almost out of juice,
passion.
boys. Holy
God
shit.
Damn. I'm going to need another vodka here soon, too. But I told him how much I fucking hate lottery. I absolutely despise it. But I will say this. If I know ahead of time, Trip Ground, that it's a lottery like Adam talked, I make a conscious decision to alter my strategy, right? Adam
Just
and I
a little
will
bit,
preach.
right?
Adam and I will preach, best ball lineup doesn't matter. If you're going to be bad, be fucking bad, right? Secure that 101. But in the lottery league, I will be bad, Adam, and I will be fucking bad, but I will be bad to the point where I'm looking at teams that I think may or may not get into the playoffs, and that is one of the things. I think we can go back and like find it in Sleeper. Shout out to our boy Gino, Fantasy Jeans. Go check his shit out. That comes out on Thursday, Off the Line with him and Ike. But you and I made a trade, and you had Jeans first, and I'm looking at his team going like, bro, I think this might be a.
Don't you dare celebrate this on. God damn it!
This may or may not be a playoff team.
How do we edit? How do we edit a live stream?
I think it's not a playoff team. So let me make this trade, and I think I even put in the chat like I'd do anything to get Jeans first right now.
Remember he put the what's that? The fist from What is that from? Damn it! Come on, you know what I'm talking about. The GIF where the fist is going. Someone in the chat. Arthur. Thank you. Yes, Arthur. Yeah. He put that in there.
Yeah,
awesome.
But that's the kind of thing, because I know it's a lottery league, so I don't know where that pick's going to fall, but he did miss the playoffs, so now he's in the lottery. Not only do I have my own first, but I now have his, and I think I have somebody else's who's going to be in the lottery, so essentially I got 3 chances at the 101 out of 6. Like, I'll take that. It sucks. I hate fucking lottery leagues. I'd rather it just be
because I think in
max points and call it good.
Right, but it's the variance card you're playing there, right? Like, okay, yes. If I get boner and I get 104, 105, 106, like, I'm going to be like, hey, Ray, remember when you thought it was cool to do this lottery? Like, fuck this. But I think the variance outweighs itself. Like, I'll miss out on 101 for 103, but maybe I'm holding one of those other ones that is 102 or 101. Like, that's the whole idea.
You touched on Jag, man. Clear, by far and away, the worst team in the fucking league.
One of the worst teams that should have been gifted the 101 by a mile, and he got 106.
And he's getting the 106, like he's going to be bad for fucking ever if he keeps getting 106s. Like, he's never going to be good at this rate.
Now, Jag, I don't know if you're listening to this and if you watch it later. Like, Jag is one of my dogs. Like, Jag, I love him. He's one of the OG Heisman guys. But he don't listen. Like, he pays everybody, but sometimes he won't listen. So, like, maybe Jag deserved it. But
it doesn't matter what kind of trade I send him. He always thinks I'm trying to fuck him.
Well, because you are.
No, bro, I could send him Bijan for like Danny Dimes. He'd tell me to fuck off. It's like, you know something I don't.
Well, okay. But point being, though, that's one of the reasons I don't like lottery, is because if you have a really bad team and you get like really boned, it's just so hard to go from... Because, Mike, you have to hit the player or trade the pick or do so much flipping of value and correct flipping of value where you're not missing to make up the cost of that, right? Like on a team that's desolate, like it's one of the reasons I like standard. But anyway, I don't actually know where I got to get back to where the questions were here.
I don't think it was a question. I think the man's
Just
just out
venting.
here venting, and,
Oh,
and I'm all for it, man. That's what Tuesday night
here,
AMA is for.
cheers to you, buddy. We'll vent on that.
I'll vent with you, man. I'll go on a tirade about how much I fucking hate lotteries.
I'll say this: I have come around a lot more on it because I think that there are people that they're not comfortable rebuilding, right? And I think that sometimes, I'm not saying this is everybody. I think there's some people that don't really want to rebuild, and they want to keep it to the point where like there's more variance and people want to go for it, right? So like I understand it. I'm not going to say I hate it, but it's not my preferred way to play. I just think that you have to account for, or try the best you can to account for, like the variance of lottery if you're truly in a rebuild.
I will say this though, Trip. Having the 103 ain't the worst thing. You stay tapped into us, man. We'll try to do our absolute best to make sure whoever you select at the 103, Bijan's fucking fantastic, but people will be like, damn, what a pick at the 103.
Now
we hope to help you down that line.
Well, this is the other thing I will say, Trip, though. I'm actually very interested to see how this goes because, let me say this, Mike. I think one thing that is coming for teams, Bijan's going to get so much damn hype. Like, especially if he goes in the draft where people are talking about him going, like this Saquon Zeke range, top 10. I think there's a trap. I'll be honest with you, man. These teams that are dog shit, don't take Bijan unless you're going to trade him. It's a bad move. Like, if that's a scenario, like if I have a really bad team, like I don't want Bijan on my team yet.
Right.
I don't. Like I'm just going to be honest and upfront about this with someone that's sitting on a plethora of 23 picks, and I hate telling all you guys this. I hate when I get drinking enough and I tell you my real strategies and I'm like, damn it, this is not helping what I'm trying to do in my leagues. But like on my rebuilds that I'm not ready to push in this coming year in 23 or definitely by 24, like I don't want Bijan. I don't want him.
I feel you, man. I was in the same situation with a lot of shitty teams where you're forced to take Breece Hall at the 101.
Same concept, but more value, right?
And Bijan's going to be more valuable than Breece Hall was, at least at the start of the season. You know what I mean? Like going into week one. It is the same kind of concept, though. Like what happens? Like I'm trying to trade Breece, trying to get off of him. He's a running back. He doesn't fit my timeline. He's losing value by the minute that he's on my team. And then what happens? He has a significant injury and he really loses some value for a while. Now, not according to the people that keep trade cut. It's just Dynasty RB1 forever, even with a bum knee. But Bijan's kind of like the same case where if I'm a really bad team and I really earn the 101, Bijan Robinson,
I want to trade out of it.
It's not the dude to fix my team, right? Like, I want a quarterback for the future. I want a guy who I can build around.
Unless you had, like, Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson or something weird, and, like, now you're actually ready to go when you have Bijan.
Perfect.
You don't.
But those are 1 in a million.
That's what I mean. Outside of the rare scenario, like, if you're not properly roster constructed, you don't want Bijan. He's going to score points. He's got a shorter shelf life. He's got injury risk. Like, I don't want that on my teams unless, like, I'm like, all right, my team's good enough in 23, and I think I'm really ready for 24. I'll probably hold him there. But on my, like, rebuilds where I'm like, shit, I need help, I don't want to hold Bijan for 2 years. That's not what I want to do on rebuilds.
Well, think about, like, Breece Hall, man. Like, what better way to start a career could you ask for than Breece Hall, right? Like, he was phenomenal, right, and still showed great things. And I still value him very highly, but you can't deny that he took a massive hit from where he was in week 8 to where he is right now.
Sure.
Like the way people value him and what they would pay for him is vastly different. I don't care how good Bijan Robinson is, Adam. If he suffers some sort of similar injury, knock on wood, because I don't hope that happens to him. But if he did, I don't care, Adam. Like he's not what we were talking about earlier in the show with Chase and Jefferson. Like it's gonna happen.
So
a knock.
let me say let me re-roll this again and start back, because Mike, this is the opposite point of why lottery's bad, in my opinion.
Fucking great team getting the 101.
So somebody that was sitting on 105, 106, right? That they traded for, it's not their pick, and then that becomes 101. Like, that's league wrecking stuff.
It is. You've been in leagues where you've done this to other people.
I have been on the side of rostering teams that are stupid and then like craftily taking people's picks and setting myself up for high picks, and now you can just year after year churn it. Like this becomes a problem, Mike, because now you have a team that's already set, and then they get Bijan. Just think of the endless possibilities if they have the degenerate mindset like you and I of like, how do I keep building the value? It's problematic. It's why we like Dynasty, Mike and myself. It's why everybody likes Dynasty. You want to be in that spot, but it's one of the problems with lottery is a team that really needs a pick could miss it, and a team that has no business with the pick could end up with it.
We have all seen those, man, those mob squads where it's just like, damn, how'd this guy luck into this fucking
what
rookie?
do we? It's like, how we gonna eat, man? 50 back around.
Yeah, I love the reference. Absolutely love the reference.
It's bad. Like the last thing you want to see is a team that shouldn't have a lottery pick get the 101 and Bijan. Like, fuck.
How dare he? How dare you?
Good for whoever you're playing with, Trip. Bad for you. Listen, you got to just play the variance in lottery. I think a lot of times, if you just keep doing what you're supposed to do with your team, you keep tapping into myself, Mike, people that are very sharp in Dynasty, Ray, a lot of people we're linked up with, you're not going to win every trade. You're going to lose some pretty badly. But if you win 60, 70% of your trades, you'll probably be surprised even here year or two, like what your team will become.
Yeah, I go back and I look at that Matthew Stafford trade that I made in that fucking league, man, and I'm like, woof.
What did I do? Why did I do this?
Why did I do this? And, in the end, it didn't matter, right? It's just because you win the other 7 trades, right? You may have lost one, but you win the other 7.
That I think is the main thing. Mike, I'll tell you one thing that I have learned from content creation. So, like, there was a league, Mike, I was in where I had I won't call it a mob squad, but a borderline mob squad, right? But I only had 2 quarterbacks. The one thing I've learned is, like, part of the way I Dynasty is that I can trade, right? Like, I kind of see things a little bit ahead. Now, I'll miss, right? Like, I'll make a bad bet on Cam Akers.
100%.
I'll miss
Kyle Pitts when you're drunk.
Sure. Yeah, Mike, you know what's crazy is I actually still didn't hate that trade. But at the time, I'm like, why did I make this stupid trade, right?
That happens.
But, like, point is, I'll miss trades. I make bad bets. But a lot of times, like, I'll see the writing on the wall. Like, I got off of all my Mike Evans. If you heard us talking in the offseason, I had at least 5 or 6 shares. I got rid of all of them. That's just, like, one of those things that, like, I can do because I trade a lot. Like, I'm a volume trader typically. I'm in some of these leagues where they're like, oh, this dude he's a podcast now, like 4D chess. Like, they don't want to trade with me. The worst thing that can happen is if you take away my outs. It's the worst thing that can happen. Because now, if I get stuck with a Matthew Stafford bad bet and I can't, like, find a way to recoup the value, I actually get stuck with the shit. Right? Like, I can't recoup 60 cents on the dollar. I get stuck with Matthew Stafford, who people are talking about retiring, and, like, who the hell knows what's going to happen. Like, the one thing is, I think that's very key for us is, and we preach, is you will not win every trade. You will look back at some trades and be like, why? Like Mike said, why did I trade for Matthew? Why did I do this? But that's okay, because you win a million other trades. The main thing is to keep trading and trading and trading. And I think that's where the process over the results on a single trade is the key, right? You'll lose a trade. You'll lose 2, 3 trades. But if you make 10 of them, you win 7, you're way ahead.
Yes, it's between you and I, man. They always accuse us of collusion, right? You and Adam always collusion. It's like, no, we just value guys the same way, and we're pretty easy to deal with back and forth, right? I don't fuck you around.
We hated dealing with each other early, but then we figured out the sweet spot. I think that's
Right.
probably an underappreciated point of when we make trades. When we first okay, let's just talk about how we got here.
We just don't send bullshit to each other.
Well, we started with that, and then we were like,
We
we're
started
not
with
going to
the
do
bullshit.
that. So Mike and I joined Heisman similarly, early 2021, right?
Yep. Yep.
So we're in there, and we're pulling our bullshit, our RB bullshit versus the wide receivers, and just after several months of just fighting everybody, and it's just Mike and I on an island. We start DMing, talking. We're like, hey, let's just instead of texting so much, let's get on a pod, do just something small, light,
Let's make South Harmon.
let's make a little podcast. We'll just see who wants to come listen to it. Long story short, we started doing that, and we started seeing how similarly we were thinking about things. But the problem was, Mike, when we first started making trades, we had this mindset of how do you get over? But I think what happened was, okay, we both know how we get over, and I'm watching you and you're watching me try to get over on each other, and it's yeah, we both know that ain't gonna work. So we started finding more of a common ground now. I'm not going to sit here.
That's my move.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Mike didn't get over on me, because he tried to find a way to bend me over, even when I didn't think I was being bent over. That's what Mike does. That's why Jag won't trade with the man. But we found a common ground, and I think that's why it's actually funny that everyone thinks we collude, because it took a while for us to get to the point of how we can actually make trades with each other. And we still, Mike, you'll send me a trade, and I look, and I'm like, well, first of all, I have a sleeper issue. I won't see it for a day or two. And I'm like, the fuck is this guy trying to pull, man? After all this time, you trying to get me on the okie doke? Right? And then, we finally come to a trade. But the collusion thing is just funny to me, because we are to the point where we trade because we think alike, but it took a while to get there.
Listen, I think one of the things that makes us good traders or good trade partners is there's a lot of guys, and we both know it between you and I, where you're like, I know Adam will still take a shot on this guy. Right? The smart move.
This is where Mike
off of him.
This is where Mike tries to bend me over. Mike tries to bend me over on my player analysis, because we have the same process, right? But if he's like, hey, I know he likes Cam Akers, here, let's dangle Cam Akers in front of him and see what I can get. That's the shit that Mike pulls, because he knows the process bullshit's not going to work with me. But he's like, Cam Akers, Deontay Johnson, the types I'm plugging for. Those are the ones he tries to pull on me.
You would do the same fucking thing to me if you had more Zach Wilson shares. Don't lie.
Mike,
you feel like I know Mike will buy this.
Mike, never did I not tell you or anyone on this stream that I will not try to pull the same bullshit back.
There
okay?
It is.
Right. I'm not trying to act like this is the only you thing. I'm creating a narrative. All right.
I love it. It. What's up,
Ty? That's my dog right here, man.
Buddy.
Yeah, I hope you're taking care of yourself too. Appreciate you hopping in, man. Dynasty Barry says I love stories.
Hashtag story time.
I hope you're not near a campfire up north, buddy, because we could talk fucking stories all night long. Okay, trading is great, because then people will come to you because people know you like to move pieces. Yeah, this is one thing too. Mike and I have talked about. Mike, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but
100%, man. We need to have Ray where we can talk about it, because he has a whole philosophy
mindset.
The mindset of Dynasty, the thought process behind it, and he does a great job of breaking it down. We need to have him on 4D sometime. But Adam, you and I have also experienced it. Not only what Ray has told us, but we've talked about it before. Where in some of these leagues, I'll trade a 4th rounder for some fucking turd that I'll probably just cut. And why will I do that? Because people see the trade goes across. Right, it doesn't matter. That's a 4th rounder for a shitlord. Gets people talking, and they're like, "Fuck, I want to trade a guy."
Hold on, let me give you guys. Now, speaking of Ray, speaking of everything I just talked about in the trading process, because Trip Crown brings it back up again, right? Let me give you the best swindle in the history of fantasy dynasty football. All right,
fuck. I was a part of this one.
It's a Ray GQ deal. So now. This, I think, is where that extra step is also that it's a player you're convicted on, right? If Mike is in on Cam Akers and I'm in on Cam Akers, maybe a little more than Mike is, and I'm willing to offer him in a trade, or like vice versa. Mike's trying to give me Antonio Gibson. Like the trade that was considered collusion, like I'm getting Gibson from Mike, right? So there's that added little pull. All right, so let me give you what the hell took place in the devil in the details of Ray absolutely abusing the South Harmon crew. All right, so Mike, February 15th, 2022. So we're coming up on a year.
Let's cut this fucking stream off, man. I don't want to recap this.
No, if you're gonna drag me through it, though, we're gonna at least go double deuces on this. At the time, right? So think it's very hard, I think, for people to do this. Think about the pre-draft process of 2022 class. Okay, so the 2022 class, if you think pre-draft process, right? Uncertainty around the quarterback position, but people thought like 3 quarterbacks for sure in the first round. You had the Mike and I pushing for 5. That was never going to happen. Turned out there's only 1, right? But you had a lot of quarterbacks in the pre-draft process going in the first rounds of rookie drafts. And there was the film versus the analytics on Isaiah Spiller. And the film community was very high on Spiller. Ray had Spiller as his RB1 in the class, right? And he knows at the time, Mike and myself are RB truthers. And we watched Ray's film breakdown on Spiller. We were in, right? So here, let me see if I can get these guys to down tier. I'm sorry, to up tier for Spiller. So we took in a auction, Mike, Rachaad White. Yeah, okay. At the time, up tier from Rachaad White to Spiller. Sign us up, right?
Great pick by us in the auction, buddy.
And the up tier piece, the prize of Drake London. Well, we traded Rachaad White and Drake London, who currently both are significantly mountainously valued ahead of Isaiah Spiller in a 2-for-1 deal. That's how you get gaped.
Yikes.
That's how you play 4D chess, and he played 4D chess with us. So just to give you, we don't always win our deals. And the mindset thing that Mike's talking about, I think it's underrated, actually. Like,
it is.
The mental game of trading.
Listen, man, people got me all off season where I'm trading first for Antonio Gibson. So, listen, this Isaiah Spiller one's gonna haunt me forever. Ray understands that, and I always said
not, but it's gonna set back this team for a while. Like Drake London and Rachaad White for Isaiah Spiller. That's another one of these process moves, Mike, that I talked about earlier. What if it goes all right for Spiller, and what if it goes all wrong? Like those are the moves I think that I will really help me not miss so poorly, right? Yeah. Cam Akers for a first. If Cam Akers hits, he's probably worth a first and a second.
I get you.
Like if the Rams are a good team still, the offensive line isn't as bad, they're scoring points. Cam Akers actually plays 60% of the snaps. First and a second, yeah, it's in the cards. But that's probably the high end. Like he's not getting a 2 first.
I will say this.
And then the low end was like below a second, Mike. That is, don't invest a first. Like that's I think how you really avoid tragic trades.
Definitely, I want to take into account like what is the worst case scenario for this.
Mm-hmm.
What is the and I don't think I ever do it enough. This is me being completely honest. I don't think I ever do it enough. Sometimes I put on my own rose-colored glasses and I want to look through them and think everything's going to work out the way I planned it and the way it works in my brain. And as you can see, Isaiah Spiller for Rachaad White and Drake London, definitely not. Definitely not.
So somehow, this is Daniel King.
This is more.
Somehow AMA turned into story time. Please ask questions if you're here, but we'll keep talking. I mean, it is nothing for Mike and I to talk. I promise you. But yeah, we got gaped in that deal. But like, see, I think this is one thing for me in a portfolio mindset, Mike, is like the errors they suck, right? Like you look back on that trade, you're like, wow, what on earth was I doing? But in a portfolio perspective, like, okay, all right, this is going to be a little longer cleanup, right? Like it's a bigger mess. Like imagine you're in the grocery store and, you knock something off the shelf. All right, it's like a bad trade. You clean it up, right? Imagine if you like knock a whole entire thing down, right? Like
The whole
that.
row.
You have a much bigger cleanup, and you're gonna have a lot more time invested in the rebuild.
Clean up on aisle Spiller.
But there you go. We spilled a lot with Isaiah Spiller.
That was punny.
Oh man, I think
the sex.
Oh, here we go. We made it. Story time is on fleek.
What is a VIR?
Hold on, but free vert girls chat here.
I don't know what a
vert is that girl. Virtual reality? Like vert?
Maybe. I'm not.
I'm totally trying to guess. I have no clue. This is why I don't. This is a Spiller thing. Like, stop trying to act like you know.
I mean, I got an Oculus behind me.
Look at this. T-Rock's in here. Not gonna lie, I've been playing God of War this whole time listening. Damn it, T-Rock. I can't even have undivided T-Rock attention. You see why I don't want to come on camera and why I have insecurities? T-Rock won't even give me his undivided attention. I have him on a patron show. He won't even give me undivided attention.
I know, man. Hey, but shout out to him, man. He got me a nice gift card for Christmas. Thank you, T-Rock. I cooked it up yesterday for lunch.
Oh, did you? Oh, that was what that was. Yeah.
Scallops, lobster, crab cakes. I mean, what more can a fat guy ask for? I was in heaven, man. It was delicious. It's fantastic. Let's get a couple more questions in here and then bounce, man, because I gotta pee again.
Damn it, Mike. Just go pee. I'll get some questions pulled up. Go.
If I go pee right now, I ain't never coming back.
All right. Well, I'm gonna end it then. Fuck you.
Jesus.
I'm not. Awesome. You see, I'm not. This is what we talked about. This is what me and Bruni talked about. We can go the distance. Ohio State, except for we shank a kick when it matters most. Happy New Year to us. My New Year starts off with Ohio State outplaying Georgia just to watch Ryan Day screw it up in three plays, and then us try to act like our kicker can make a 50-yarder and shank one. Like you saw, me or Mike teeing off when we're hammered, right? Like just completely shanked.
I just mean like both of our teams played schools from the SEC, and one of us didn't have a problem with them.
Don't you go doing this bullshit. Don't you go doing this bullshit.
I mean, one of us ended our season with a win, and the other one didn't.
You see that beautiful thing behind Mike? I put that together because I felt bad for him. All right, it's always Iowa's this little brother type shit, and it's like I want good things for Iowa, but they're just not Ohio State, so. I try to just, play ball with the kid,
We'll add one more to that frame here come NFL draft. Sam motherfucking Laporta. Let's go.
All right. Hold on. Let's get questions because I think we have them, but all right.
They're buried under story time.
Well, this is a weird question. Not a weird question, but like a weird scenario of outcomes, I think, Mike. But what happens with Jimmy G next year? I bought a couple of shares for cheap before Lance injury. He really helped me, but I don't know what his future is going to look like now. I have thoughts. Mike, go ahead.
I had a lot more hope for him before the Brock Purdy thing. And it's not because Jimmy got injured, but because Brock came in and basically just picked up where Jimmy had left off. You know what I mean? And if you're telling me some undrafted or 6th round, 7th round, Mr. Irrelevant, whoever the fuck it is from Iowa State, who I thought was god-awful and trash, can do basically the same things that Jimmy G had been doing in that offense, I don't know if it's good for him for his NFL future. Like, I thought he was walking into a starting job somewhere next year with what he'd been doing. I don't know about that now, Adam. I really don't. I really don't know if other teams are going to look at him and go like, yeah, that's the guy. We just watched Brock Purdy do it. Why not Jimmy?
Let me tell you why I get your hesitation, and it's the same hesitation I had, which was confirmed by Brock Purdy. But let me tell you why he's still walking into a starting job. Mike, we talked about Keep Trade Cut has currently at quarterback 14 Kenny Pickett. Fair. Currently at quarterback 15 Daniel Jones. Somebody that was on the outs. Jared Goff, right? Like, Mike, there are so many teams. Mike, I want you guys to remember this because we talked about this on 40, and I'm going to say it again. We have 31 people in the chat. Apparently, story time needs to be a new off-season thing, a new channel, new show we do. But, Mike, quarterback 21, let me repeat this that we said on 4D. Jordan Love. Like, Jordan Love is terrible.
Yeah.
Jordan Love is terrible. We all know he's terrible, except for apparently a lot of people on Keep Trade Cut don't know he's terrible. Mike, Jimmy G, as bad as he is going to be a starter next year.
Okay.
Now, I would say he'll be a starter next year. But to answer the question of Rojo Fish, what do you do and what does his future look like?
Sell.
If you can sell appropriately, I'm selling. I'm still selling. I'm not making my bed. I'm not laying my bed on. I will miss on my complete reach dumb shit for Isaiah Spiller. I'll miss on that. I'm not missing value on Jimmy G. Not going to see me do it.
No thanks.
I need a second though. Like, I need a second. Period.
Yeah.
Couple.
For sure.
You think you get a couple?
Maybe. I think what realistically you could do is when Jimmy signs somewhere next year.
You hold until then.
When he signs somewhere next year, before he actually plays games and you really find out how fucking bad it is without Kyle Shanahan and those weapons, like say it's Carolina and he looks god awful. But before that happens, right, you move him. Mm-hmm. Adam, I don't know. You might be able to move him now straight up for like a Zach Wilson because people fucking hate Zach Wilson. They hate him. They hate him with a passion.
I don't think probably you definitely can now. After he got the job back. No, I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying now that he got the job back and then lost it again, I think you can get that done.
I did that.
I think the swing on Zach Wilson is worth it, but I think if Zach Wilson misses, like Jimmy G's safer. But I think the upside's tremendously different. Like Zach Wilson's upside it's not even in the realm of Jimmy G. Here's what I'll say about Jimmy G. My final point I'll make on this. I think what you're better off doing is holding until there's a clear, this is who he's going to play for. He's probably going to be the starter there. And then this is what I will say about Jimmy G and why I'm selling 99% of the time. Think about what Brock Purdy was set up with, right? Why Jimmy G's been so good. Why when Hoodie was trading Jimmy G, the Browns offered a first, but he sent Jimmy G to Frisco for a second. We don't like the Browns and we like Jimmy G. Like, we wanted to help him be successful. We didn't want to send him to Cleveland. They sent him to Frisco with Shanahan, who's a great up-and-coming coach. He's surrounded with Kittle, Debo, CMC, Ayuk, right? Ayuk has been on and off the field because of shenanigans. This is an alpha, right? Like, when you assess Jimmy G being signed to whatever team this is, like, I just want you to think scenarios. Like, if he goes to Danny Dimes' situation in the Giants, it is a fucking wrap for Jimmy G. Like, there's probably a very small handful. Like, if for whatever reason McDaniels misses out on Brady, let's say, right? That's probably his sweepstakes. Let's say, though, he's like, hey, Jimmy G, I know this guy. I want to bring him in. Raiders isn't terrible if they still have Adams and Waller. Not a horrible situation for him. But it's not Frisco, I don't think. It's not the same system.
Yeah.
Like, we just saw Stidham go off. Like, it's not horrible. That's probably one of the better case scenarios. But the point is, like, I think the landing spot will be very important for Jimmy G. I think Jimmy G can't move. I think he's a very replaceable check down guy. But in fantasy, what he's going to offer you is what his weapons are. And if he goes to a situation where the weapons aren't good, I'll probably sell it even 80, 60%, bro. Like, I'm out.
Would you rather bet on Jimmy G or Jameis Winston, given the choice right now?
Safer plays Jimmy G. Upside plays Jameis. Here's the thing with Jameis. If you can't get on the field in New Orleans with Andy Dalton for weeks and weeks and weeks, it's making me really wonder what kind of ruining he did of his life when he stole them crab legs. Like
maybe that back was really fucked up. I don't know, but yeah.
Upside for sure with Winston. There's no upside with Jimmy G. I just want to make sure everyone understands that. Like, Jimmy G has seen every bit of upside he's ever going to have in Frisco with all the weapons.
I really wonder what you'd have to attach to a Jimmy G to go get like a Daniel Jones or a Jared Goff.
Well, that's probably the smart move though, because that probably isn't enough to where I'd rather have Danny Dimes because of his rushing upside.
Do you think like late second would be enticing enough for some people to go like, fuck yeah, I'll take Jimmy G in your late second?
I doubt it. Like if I'm sending it to Mike, I know it'll auto decline, but
Yeah, I'll tell you to fuck off.
if I'm sending it to Jag, I'll try it and see what happens. You know, like
He doesn't watch this show anyways.
Jag's actually been tapping in, but I kind of hope he does watch just so he knows I'm fucking with him.
He's
No,
got
but
the hat
I would
professor.
try a late second. Mike, let me ask you this. Would you rather have Jimmy G in a 204 in this class or Danny Dimes?
Lineup, Danny Dimes, best ball, I'll take 204 and Jimmy G. Just roll the dice.
Yeah, I think I'm taking.
And I don't think Jimmy's very fucking good.
I think I'm taking the Jimmy side outside of like start 9 lineup.
I think even in the deeper ones, man, I think Danny's been disrespected too fucking much. But
I'm with you, but I also wonder, like, has he reached... We talked about this on the recap. I think he's one of the most disrespected. I have a lot of Danny Dimes because of it, but at quarterback 15, has he reached, like, there's nowhere to go but down?
I don't know, man. He's QB 15 with Richie fucking James and Isaiah Hodgins. So...
But now that they're winning and they're going to be in the playoffs, like, what are they going to surround them with?
I don't know. Maybe they find something though.
Maybe they get it. Maybe they get a Kadarius Toney and they trade him away again. So
stop it.
I'm just being a dickhead. So sorry. This is why Mike and I understand. All right, Mike, stop with the Jameis shit. All right, what we asked. I know we asked this a while ago. Where's the eggplant emojis on the questions? You know, like the shit emoji, anything.
Come on, T-Rod.
Where are you at, Tarek? Where's my questions? Oh, here we go. Trip Crown. If you didn't catch this one, what are your opinions on a tear down when it's tearing up too much? We kind of had this question, but we can talk in depth about it a little more. 12-team, half PPR, start 10. He gave Ayuk and got Mooney in a 24 first. I actually don't mind that one.
I don't hate it.
I think Ayuk in a 24 first is about even. Like I'd prefer, like if you could tell me where it was, like I want Ayuk over a late 24 first.
Yep.
But generically, like if it has a chance to be middling, I'd prefer the pick. So if you give me Darnell Mooney as the the grease, I'm in.
I'm with you. I'd probably want Ayuk, but I don't know. Maybe it's me just liking Darnell Mooney too fucking much.
Mike, but let's backtrack. Let's assess growth and variance, right? Like we saw a lot of great teams become not very good this year.
Fair.
24 first, right? These are teams that are planning on their crystal ball, right? They know how 23 is going to go.
We're going to be great in 2024. And then they turn into Caleb Williams.
If you have one of these teams, Mike, that flirts with the playoffs in the 23 season, like I had a great team, Mike, but I had the Dak injury. I probably talked about this overly, but I'll do it again. Dak goes down for however many weeks, right? It really hurts me. Then Stafford is a complete pumpkin.
Yep.
Right? Kyle Pitts was dog shit. DJ Moore needed Sam Darnold. Woof. Who else we got? Swift wasn't playing. Cam Akers was really not playing. I mean, Mike, there was just like everything that could have went wrong was going wrong. That's just what I can think of. I know there's other things. Deontay was missing lineups weekly. All of a sudden, like this team is not really a playoff team, and I've already traded my 23 pick. Like, yeah, this is a 110, 111, 112. You sitting on that 24 first that someone sent you and you think that it's late, like that I think is the bet here, right? It's the variance bet. Like if that is 112 and 24 and Mooney, I'm with Mike. I want Ayuk, but I'm learning to take more risk in assets that are guaranteed accrual and that are variance based.
As long as like kind of what Scott Connor talked about, like it meets the threshold.
Right. Like I'm not trading away one of these like absolutely necessary pieces, right? Like Ayuk, as much as I love him, he's replaceable.
Yeah.
I'm not trading away one of these stud quarterbacks. I'm not trading away even like Brees Hall before the injury. I'm not trading away one of these guys that's like hyper valuable. Like as much as I love Ayuk, he's not ever going to carry that dynasty weight of if that 24 first hits 104. Just not.
I think I'm with you, man. When I look at some of the other wide receivers that I have ranked behind and kind of where I have Darnell Mooney even after the injury, it's like I'm good making that bet. I don't think IU quite falls into that category where I'm like, this just feels too low to go, right? Like I feel like he's a true difference maker. You're making the bet on Darnell Mooney being healthy, but you also get the first as insurance, right? And like you talked about, if that first ends up being in a very good first, you look like a fucking genius, right? There's a scenario where that first alone when it comes up, right? At a certain point is worth more than Braden Ayuk by himself. Period.
I would say like 108 in North because of the Superflex and the quarterbacks we know. Brock Bowers, like it's
a good class.
108 in North is gonna be worth more than Ayuk.
I like that bet. More and more I talk about it.
This is as me as an Ayuk stan. Like Mike and I were on the Mike Lude hype train early on Ayuk,
way back when. Yep.
Anyway, opinion on the teardown is that I think that in a worst case scenario, my kind of like a little bit of my new process. Worst case scenario, you maybe lose a little bit. Like if Mooney doesn't really become much and Chicago's a dumpster fire again, and that 24 first is late, I think you maybe lose a touch. But that is so minimal compared to what I think you could potentially gain and the leverage you could gain if you continue to get more 24 picks.
Upside far outweighs the downside if this trade goes sideways.
By a mile. All right, so we're probably needing to get out of here because Mike told me he needed
2 hours, man. 2 hours.
This wasn't nothing. We got 7. All right, you know what? We got 7 minutes. Mike called it. We got 2 hours to get to. We got 7 minutes to go. That included our countdown timer, so we got like 8 minutes to go. Look at Mike.
This man just wants me to piss in this chair.
I want you to actually go and come back, but as a Giants fan, I think we get a wide receiver unless those guys go way higher than projected now.
That is fair. I think they do too.
I don't know. Here's what I'll say. I think logic says yes, but I don't know how yearly it feels like they get worse at receiver.
You got 4 wide receivers in this class I think are probably worthy of first-round picks, maybe 5. Like I've seen some of these mock drafts where they have 5 or 6. I'm not going to put it out of the question. But the Giants are probably
see, Alex, somewhere. You did, and I remember I know I at least pulled it up. Maybe I didn't actually get to it. Hold on. I'm going to scroll way up, Mike, because I know he did this. All right, here we go. Boom. I pulled it up, and I don't think we talked about it. What are your biggest key differences when it comes to trading in lineup compared to best ball? Man, I mean, this is a homer.
That fucking question, man.
Sorry, go ahead.
The Giants, on the other hand, are probably guaranteed to be picking somewhere between 20 22, right? We don't think they're going to make a far advance. And that's like prime situation.
They're early-ish 20s. Like, they're not making a big push, no.
No. So, yes, I think they can get a fabulous wide receiver in the 20s. Is it going to be their choice of the number 1 wide receiver? Maybe the number 2 wide receiver? No. It's going to be the 3rd, 4th guy? Absolutely. Biggest differences when it comes to trading in lineup compared to best ball. Best ball is all about diversification. Multiple shots at it, filling out a complete roster. Lineup, you lean towards the studs, right? Adam, you would tier up in a lineup league for Chase or Jefferson. You will not tier up in a lineup league or in a best ball league for Chase or Jefferson.
Yeah, I think in basic principle, what Mike said is exactly correct. I will say league dynamics and this year has changed a little bit for me. Like, I do think this year showed me, Mike, like when we looked at it before we went into this year, right? Like a lot of it was based on a few leagues we had in best ball, right? So like failed contenders I had built around running backs and then like trying to double tight end these tight end premium leagues. And I did it on tight ends that flopped, like Waller and Kittle, right? And then you had like your mob squad you built in like the OG, the original bomb squad league. You had built it with a plethora of depth, right? But I think what was missed was that you landed at extreme value Debo. You landed at extreme value in auction Cooper Cup. You had depth, which was essential. And I think we have already exploited how big depth is in best ball. But I also think there's a blend, Mike, of where you want depth, but you still need the difference makers at positions. Like we've already figured this out in quarterback, right? Like we have spreadsheets to prove that this is factual. Like you still need difference makers at quarterbacks. The warp there in best ball is still significant. The elite receivers, some of the running backs that were smashing this year, Josh Jacobs, like those are warp advantages even still in best ball. So for me, Mike, what you said in principle is still by and large correct. In best ball, you want to just continue to multiply depth, real value depth, right? Like dynasty value and people that can make your lineup. You want more and more shots at the dartboard. You don't want to roster zeros. If you're contending, you want to roster everybody that can hit. Lineup, you want to kind of consolidate typically, especially in the shallower starting lineup. Start 9, start 10. You get to start 12, start 13, start 14. You know, you kind of want to have a little more depth, but by and large, the difference is you want to have more depth in best ball and more studs in lineup. I will say the one thing I've learned, though, is that if I can play the edges of those two things, like in best ball, if I can tier up craftily, I'll still do it, right? But
yeah,
it's all cost dependent, but by and large, what you said, Mike, is 100% correct. Like best ball, depth. I just want to make sure I stress that because I think I built some teams, Mike, this offseason that were very, very depth right, but like they just lacked some power punch too at top, you know?
I will say this too, like we kind of have a little conversation on Sunday, especially after Albert scored a touchdown, right?
How many lineups did we cut him in best ball, man?
All of them. Just about all of them.
No, I'm just saying, like, me and you probably cut, what, like 8, 10 Albert O shares probably combined?
But that's a prime example of a guy like in the lineup league.
Like, you never cut.
The bottom of my roster, I'm probably never starting anyways, but like I'm looking for lawn darts. Like I'm looking for those guys with good profiles or elite athleticism that I want to hold on to. On a best ball contender, I don't want that fucking guy. I don't. Ideally, I'd love to be able to trade him, but if Adam won't give me anything for him because he's obviously rebuilding, but he knows that I'm probably going to cut this fucking turd anyways, he's just going to let me cut him, and then he's going to pick him up the next week for $1, right? So
true.
That's the kind of guy where, like, on a contender, I can't afford to have this fucking guy on my roster just giving me zeros, right? He doesn't. He's not like if I have a Kyler Murray who's injured, who's going to maintain dynasty value, right? Albert O is not ever fetching me enough in a fucking trade to be worth anything to hold on to my roster. So biggest difference between lineup and best ball right there for me is those kind of guys who are like, he could be something. Like I like the potential of him, but he's doing absolutely nothing right now. In the lineup league, as long as you have deep enough benches, you're willing to hold those kinds of guys. You're going to stash them on a taxi. In best ball, you don't have that option. Those dudes hit the fucking street. Get off my team. Let me get some Derwin Smythe, who might catch a touchdown pass.
And I think that's the last point I'll make is directionally, right? Contending teams in best ball, you want all those Hunter Longs, Albert O's, these fucking turd zeros, like projection long shots off your team. If I'm rebuilding, I want all of them. I want to have 8, 10 of them and have no chance of scoring points. T-Rock says, because he heard us with the eggplant. Now
this is the best question to end the night on right here. 2-hour stream right here.
Wait, I got one more question that I'm going to put over top of it that you have to get to before we get out of here, because these are the last two. This is it. Everybody, this is it.
My thoughts on Mike White, because I don't want to end on a negative note. My thoughts on Mike White haven't changed. He's still fucking god-awful, and I've been telling people that for weeks, but nobody listened, apparently.
All right, so we got that out of the way. Sorry, Liebert, but Mike's got a thing with the whole Canada thing, so sorry.
All right, T-Rock, what are you cooking on night 1 of the expo if he's carnitas on day 2? Adam, holy shit, what the fuck do we ask from this man on day 1? Can we get carnitas on both nights? Is that a possibility? Is that even an option?
Let me say this. I did not expect, like, I remember vividly, Mike. We're sitting there like at the I forget what the outdoor area is called in Canton, right? And I'm watching like T-Rock's like rapping with Ray. Like I wonder what they're talking about, right? And I found out like they started talking food, and T-Rock was kind of like, yeah, man, like I'm really confident. Like my carnitas are top notch. And Ray's like, I love the confidence you're kind of spitting at me, you know? And I'm thinking like, T-Rock, you set yourself up. Like these have to be the best carnitas in the world for them to live up now.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
But they did, right?
No question about it, man.
They
Best
did.
fucking carnitas I've ever eaten.
I wanted to keep eating while I was like completely overly full.
And we're 5 months removed from the expo. I still think, and even talking about these fucking carnitas, I can taste them in the back of my mouth. That's the lasting impression I have of those carnitas. They're fucking phenomenal. T-Rock killed it. But that's why I say, like, is carnitas on day one also a possibility?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, T-Rock, this was before Ray tore his Achilles, but like I remember like that conversation and thinking like, man, like there's gonna be so many people eating these carnitas. Like I just hope that he didn't set himself up, right? And then he smashed it. So I texted Ray, like Discord, whatever it was. I'm like, yo, T-Rock's carnitas were the best thing I've ever eaten, and that's not exaggeration. Now I know it's maybe not the same things you've eaten, but to me, the best thing I've ever eaten. So anyway, that being said, like carte blanche, man. You bring us those carnitas, and then I want you to cook up one of your other signature dishes. Like show us what T-Rock's cooking skills are all about. Because as much flexing as you did, T-Rock, the auction that you kind of got off on ended up not winning. So I want you to stay in the lane of what you thrive in.
If there's anything, T-Rock, that you think is even close to the level of your carnitas, just make it. You don't even got to fucking ask. Don't even tell me what it is. Just make the fucking thing. Because, bro, you weren't lying. I thought you were full of shit, and I ate them, and I'm looking at them, and I'm like, nah, this just looks normal. And then I didn't even want to go to the fucking expo that night. Like, I just wanted to sit there and eat more carnitas. And then I was all excited to get home after the expo to eat carnitas, and most of them were gone. So
them bitches were fire too.
And second part, if I could invite anyone from the expo to the carnitas banquet, who would it be? 100% Ray, because I think he still thinks we're fucking with him.
Well, because you also have to understand, like, I didn't know what I was doing at the time, but like Ray had this experience of like everything he ate, like he said was awful. So, you know, he's like, I just want a good meal. I remember he's saying on like one of those days. And then I'm texting him like, yo, T-Rock just cooked these fire carnitas. Like, it's the best food I've ever had in my life. And he's like, I just ate dog shit from the store around the corner, you know?
Yo, this is so much Chappelle Show, like Charlie Murphy's Real Hot.
Charlie Murphy, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Yo, like, T-Rock can cook. If you don't believe me, get you and your crew together and challenge him. Challenge him. This cat can ball.
This show was entirely off the rails.
Then he served us carnitas.
The carnitas were fire. I T-Rock, take the reins, man. I remember he was texting me like in DMs, you know, like, hey man, I really want to cook for everybody. And I'm like, listen, man, like I think like logistically, like you're trying to do too much. Like I don't know where we're gonna be, like if everyone's gonna come back. And he's like, listen, man, just trust me. I want to cook for everyone. And I was like, I didn't really know him. I hadn't met him in person. I'm like, all right, man, just like, do what you got to do. And then he set this thing on fire. Like he changed the expo game. So T-Rock, the answer is get creative and give us your best work, man.
T-Rock brought it up too, but we were told those tacos at the cafeteria were free. Just grab a plate. And after I told you,
that wasn't my fault, man. I was told they were free, and then I got a bill. Like, hey, that's not.
Some lady came around with a bill, and I'm like, wait a minute, these aren't free. Well, if they're not free, these are fucking trash.
Terrible. Absolutely
fucking horrible,
bro. Free, like you know, serve it yourself. You know, buffet style. Fine. You're going to cook a bunch of food for a bunch of people, give it to them free. I got that bill. It wasn't that much, but it was so much more than whatever those were worth. I mean, I would have, yeah. Anyway.
Garbage.
I have no idea how we ended this way. I appreciate everyone tapping in, man. We still got 20 people here for story time, T-Rock time, all the trades. Rojo Fish is probably long gone by now because he came in and told us how, he won the Jamar Chase thing. But listen, that's the whole name of the game. Like, I think that's one of the things that is, like, I think everybody still, I want to make one last point, is that, like, thoughts and prayers are still with the entire team and family of this man who's going through something that I think Mike and I, and everybody here, I don't know if you are, but like as parents, like it's hard to think about someone that young going through something like this, right? It's heavy, and like that comes first. But we're trying to wrap up fantasy titles, and when it comes to that, man, like it's just crazy because like Rojo, his team was good enough, like he won the title. Like there's no discrepancy. You know what I mean? Like the teams that won titles this year, like I think that's one thing that I think to finish up on. Like the teams that actually decidedly won titles this year, like they won them. Like I think there's going to be a lot of people that end up having a split pot. And when you want, if you won a title decidedly, like you did your thing. And so like Rojo, I mean, I was leaning into some stuff on the trade show, I was, especially in the summer, leaning into some stuff. We're waiting for football. I was like, Rojo, this is the worst trade I've ever seen in the history of my life, acting like I've been doing Dynasty for like 50 years, but like I was leaning into it, okay, well, damn it, you got me. And you won the league, so good for you. And good for everybody else too. I hope you guys all won a bunch of leagues. But the point is, man, Rojo, even with that trade, won his league decidedly. It's not a debate.
100%, man. Very scary situation. We touched on it a little bit. Something none of us have ever experienced before. I don't think anybody's ever been in that situation, especially at least with the game in the NFL. What we play fantasy football for, what we watch every Sunday and Monday and Thursday night, and what we just can't get enough of. And one in a few weeks, man, a few short weeks we're going to miss. That's not on. No matter how trash the Thursday night game is, it's just something you got to remember when you're sitting there in March. You're like, fuck, I would take Josh Dobbs and the Tennessee Titans versus the Jags right now. Like I'd kill for this game. So to see something unheard of almost happen, and we're not out of the woods yet with that whole situation. You just hope and pray for the best. But it was very tough. And then, the impact that it has on the game that we love as far as fantasy football goes, it was a very strange week. But Adam, you're not kidding, man. The people who won titles outright, no split pots, had 80, 90-point leads with nothing to go. Those people earn their fucking championships, and you can't take it away from them. And you're right. There's going to be a lot of people out there being like, yeah, I split a pot, so I'm like co-champion. Right? Well, it just doesn't feel the same. Doesn't feel the same.
And, last year I had to kind of live down the whole, Adam, he didn't win anything. Yeah, I was rebuilding in like 80% of leagues, but I didn't win, so you're right. So this year, it's like, all right, I'm at least get a title, and then, I'm not. So I got another year of, Cody coming at me, and I have to split with Cody now coming at me. Like, can you do anything but rebuild? I got another year of that. So, trying to make like light of the situation, but Cody, I'm not doing the kiss your sister thing. Like, we're not kissing, buddy. Like, you want to split the pot? It's one thing, but like, we're not close like that, boss. So,
I like that.
Anyway,
I like this.
Yeah, man, I'm really glad everybody's tapping in. This is unprecedented.
Needed it.
Unprecedented.
Needed it.
2 hours, 10 minutes. I think this should at least speak to you guys. Like, at least for me, I know Mike kind of touched on it. Like, yesterday was a horrible day. Like, watching everything, thinking about it. Been on my mind a lot. Damar Hamlin, the family, the team. Like, I've been in football. I've played football and seen people had really bad injuries, but you've never been fearful that someone's going to die right there. And that's a different thing. So anyway, we appreciate everybody tapping in. Also, big things popping in 23 with South Harmon. upgrades to some tiers, some things to think about. But we will let you guys all know that after you've all tied everybody. So
that's all I got, man. We'll see you on Friday. We won't see you, but you can listen to us on Friday. The 40 episode will be out, and then we'll kind of see what happens with the trade show on Saturday.
Yeah, make sure you're tapped in.
We're doing one.
We're doing one.
We're gonna be doing one.
I told Mike I was taking a week off. I decided against it. You know, you guys are all here, and I can't just leave everybody. So make sure you're tapped in, because I got a surprise for Mike, surprise for y'all. Trade show. We're gonna keep this thing going and probably add some shows here in the off season. So we appreciate everyone tapping in, man. We're out of this thing. Long overdue. We're out of this thing. Peace.